Out of the gates and ready to go. The Friday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway. Glad you're with us across the OutKick network. That includes this great radio station that you're listening to right now. Wonderful partners and all of you watching at YouTube or at OutKick.com. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Head over there and just search OutKick and you can get all of the shows on demand or live as we go live in the afternoons. But everyone available, podcasts and more, at the OutKick channel. We have Mike Gunzelman, the Gun Show, coming on in about an hour and a half. Always brings the energy, plenty to discuss with what he's written over the last week or so at OutKick. Chad, good afternoon. Memorial Day weekend upon us.
We're going to go into Memorial Day weekend strong. We're going to close strong this week. I'm already chatting in the YouTube chat, so hit us up there. You
with
can
the
watch
Russians
the show
or?
there. No Russians yet. So that's look, it's a big weekend. I feel like this is just a great omen that it's going to be a terrific weekend for everyone, that I haven't had to deal with any Russians in the YouTube chat yet. This is perfect.
Yeah, that's the long weekend ahead of us. We hope you'll be active in the chat throughout the show. Plenty of topics to hit. Right before we started today's show, DeAndre Hopkins, released by the Arizona Cardinals, they tried to trade him. They tried to move the veteran wideout who missed due to a suspension a year ago. He's also been a little banged up, but when he's on the field, Kyler Murray looked great. And they release him. They get nothing in return. They take a $22.6 million hit on their cap. They're going to save about $8 million by releasing him now. But, Chad, I read into this a couple of different ways. Number one, the Arizona Cardinals, keep in mind, next year in April, they have 2 first-round picks. They have theirs and the Houston Texans' first-round pick because the Texans moved up to draft Will Anderson. They also knew that there was no chance that DeAndre Hopkins was going to re-sign with them or restructure the contract to make it team-friendly now and then kick the can down the road. Why? Well, because he publicly said he wants to play for a team that is about structure and leadership, and he hasn't had that over the last several years. And he's not wrong either. That also includes the Houston Texans, where Bill O'Brien was the GM/head coach and traded him to Arizona for pennies on the dollar, and Arizona could not even get that in return in exchange for one of the top wideouts when healthy. Here are the teams that he has mentioned. And it's based on quarterback, but also keep in mind what he said about front office structure and leadership. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Eagles. One great team is about to get even better based on the focus of DeAndre Hopkins wanting to win. The dude is elite. The one-handed catches are on the routine when he's available. And it's part of the reason why Deshaun Watson, back in 2020, decided he was out, even before everything off the field happened, was saying that he didn't want to be a part of the Texans organization because they had traded Hopkins a few weeks prior at the deadline. Where do you think he ends up? I've got my theory.
I want to hear your theory because all the usual suspects is what's listed, right? What you just ran through, it's okay. Here, who are the contenders? Who has a good quarterback in place? Where would DeAndre Hopkins want to go and both produce, have a great stat line, and win at the highest level in the NFL? So all of the usual suspects are in there. This is a possible Super Bowl swinging move for someone. I mean, right before we came on, when we saw this, that he's available now for anyone to sign, I'm thinking, what does that do for the Vegas odds for the team that signs him for the Super Bowl? It's going to shift it. This is a franchise shifting move and a league shifting move for whoever signs him, as long as it's one of these teams that are a contender. Hutton, what is your theory on who could possibly sign?
One of two. I think it's either Baltimore, with the investment that they made with Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson earlier this week said the offense that you see in Baltimore is going to be more pass than run compared to the past offenses that we've seen. That's number one. Keep in mind they've got a new offensive coordinator coming in. And more pass than run, you don't really have to do all that much. Just, 2 or 3 extra pass plays can make it that way. I get it. So I'm reading into that. He was also rumored to be there even after Odell Beckham Jr. signed. And Odell Beckham Jr. is not a number 1 wide receiver right now. I think he's better as a 2 or a 3, in theory, if you've got a veteran wide receiving core. So I'm looking for Baltimore. And then Kansas City, because they've lost more than they've gained at the position. And right now they're starting wide receivers, and they're going to make everyone look great. They're starting wide receivers are Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore. Those are the three. Mahomes is already talking about making sure that they're able to bring in players he wants to be with and able to make the team great even in years where they're releasing great players, letting them go due to contract and salary cap constraints. I look at Kansas City and Baltimore as the two. And if Baltimore ends up with Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr. and what they've done in the draft, and you compare everything and the fact they got their quarterback back, Baltimore is, again, right there in contention with Cincinnati in the division.
Absolutely. But DeAndre Hopkins with the Chiefs, this is what's crazy about it. Even with Odell Beckham Jr. in Baltimore, I hear DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, and I hear cheat code. That's almost unfair when you think of Kelsey, Mahomes, and him. And that's the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. I'm not talking about that with Baltimore. I love Lamar Jackson. He ain't Patrick Mahomes. He's not making a wide receiver that much better.
No, he is in the regular season. He is. He's a unanimous MVP in the NFL.
He is. He's not Patrick Mahomes, and he's not one of the top passers in the league.
Not Mahomes, but again,
But here's what I mean by that. If I'm a receiver, DeAndre Hopkins elevates whatever quarterback he's with. So he's going to elevate Lamar Jackson, who's already a very good quarterback. But Patrick Mahomes, with a guy of that talent at receiver, that he hasn't, he had Tyreek Hill, but this is a very different type of player. With DeAndre Hopkins, that seems almost unfair for the National Football League. When I hear Lamar Jackson paired with DeAndre Hopkins, I don't immediately think that's unfair. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to make Lamar Jackson look a lot better. And the Ravens, already a Super Bowl contender, may become the Super Bowl favorite. If you look at Odell Beckham Jr., Lamar Jackson locked in, their defense. And they're a team that's going to be right there.
And they have cap space right now to do that. There's a wild card team that he hasn't mentioned that I think deserves consideration, and it's the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have cap space, and Jameson Williams is not available for 6 weeks because he's suspended for betting on college football or something else other than the NFL. That also...
Just the world that we're in, though, Hutton, think about that. I agree with you as a possible spot. DeAndre Hopkins wants to leave Arizona because he wants to win badly, and he would choose the Detroit Lions possibly.
But he didn't mention winning. He said he wanted a place with leadership and structure in place up top. And he goes, I haven't had that over the last several years. And several years to me means Houston or Arizona. And they've got that now in Detroit. And they're also in the NFC. The teams I've just rattled off are AFC teams, except for the Eagles. And production-wise, I think Hopkins means more to a team like the Lions than he does the Eagles compared to what he could bring to both quarterbacks there and the situation that the Lions are faced with. Jameson Williams, I'm on a seesaw with him right now because on one hand, he bit the bullet and he admitted in front of the media at OTAs this week, hey, I'm not appealing the suspension. I did it. I'm trying to move on from this. I realize what I did was in disagreement with the policy in place. But then he also admits that he didn't know the policy for gambling, period. Not just gambling on the NFL, which gets you at least an annual suspension, a year-long suspension. It's technically listed as indefinite, but from what we know of Calvin Ridley, it's a full calendar year. Calvin Ridley played at Alabama. Jameson Williams played at Alabama. And when Calvin Ridley gets suspended for a year for betting on football, I'm immediately thinking there is no way this dude didn't know about the policy. However, I try to give benefit of the doubt. Rocky Arciano is Williams' agent. And Calvin Ridley bet on the NFL. He bet on the Falcons as part of a parlay. Suspended for a year. He's now in Jacksonville, not Atlanta. Meanwhile, Jameson Williams bet on a NASCAR race for all I know. Or bet on where Jordan Spieth would finish at last year's PGA Championship game.
It's a non-NFL event he bet on.
Non-NFL, but it happened on NFL property, which includes, if you're on the road, the team bus, the team hotel, the locker room, wherever you are. And the FanDuels and DraftKings and other betting apps that are partnered with the league, they're giving this information over, turning it over, trying to be transparent with the league, a league that got in bed with sports betting, I believe, before they had a clear path with the policy that was going to be in place. However, prior to them taking money from Vegas or any online betting app, there was already a policy in place where you could not be seen at a casino. You couldn't bet on the NFL. It was frowned upon. You couldn't even mention betting. The word betting was like, Michael Buffer and one of his catchphrases that you can't say on the radio.
Al Michaels would get in trouble because he would hint at a line during NFL games he was calling the game.
It's
Brent Musburger, the same thing.
I think the vast majority of players know that they can't gamble. Because even on the road, where I would travel with an NFL team, I stayed at a casino one time over a week-long span. The team did not, because they did not want to be associated with gambling whatsoever. Now the league is, and Jamison Williams is saying he doesn't understand the policy in place. There's another report out that the NFL and these apps, there could be a second tier of suspensions, another wave, where another Detroit Lions player, unnamed, could be facing a suspension. Williams is the only player that the Lions had suspended that remains on their roster. And if I'm an NFL agent right now, I am making sure that I'm calling everyone on my list and explaining, don't do anything unless you're at home. And when you're at home, don't bet on the league. That's the main thing. Don't bet on the league, because you'll be suspended for a year minimum. Meanwhile, you've got a great player like Jamison Williams who is saying he didn't know, and maybe he didn't because it's very vague on what is team property and what's not. And if you're with a crew that's putting money on Alabama because you want to bet on the Tide, chances are you're doing that with friends who also played at Bama, or they're playing the rival that week, and you're on the bus after, I'm not even saying on the way to the stadium. It could be on a Saturday on the way to the hotel when you land after your chartered flight. You can't get on there and bet. And from here on out, it's on the players and the agents that represent them more than it is the team or the league. Even though I feel like I don't really know that the players feel like they've been transparent with the rules in place.
So we had Logan Ryan in earlier this week, and he made it sound like we asked about these protocols, rules, everything that goes on. Do you know for sure? And he kind of brushed it off as, every business has like an online thing they have to do. They like send you an email, and you got to go through HR training and all of that.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it's in there. And I'm thinking to myself,
that the NFLPA would send that out.
Jamison Williams' ignorance to this rule sounds like that's actually the case. Like it's just in their inbox, and they may have either opened it or not done the online training course they had to complete in 42 minutes.
But he is the
or
first,
whatever it may be.
And maybe it's happened last year, and I don't recall it. He's the first guy that's a known player. There was another player, Barry Hill, on the Lions who they cut, who also was underneath this category, but didn't bet on the NFL, but bet on something else while on team property. That's a big difference for me than betting on the games in the league.
It's a huge
perception-wise.
difference. Yeah, and it's look, I said, and people were like, well, you're not going to get across to anyone if you do that. But I think if you bet on the UFC, let's say,
right,
is what Jamison Williams bet on a Saturday on a team bus.
Yeah.
Because the UFC, they're going to watch the UFC event that night.
Yep.
As they're going to bed for the game the next day.
And they would do that.
That deserves a very harsh, hey, this is your only warning. You cannot do that. Not just in he says, well, I only thought NFL was what we couldn't bet on. Not just NFL. You can't do it on team property. I would have been fine with that if the NFL went to all of these people that did not bet on the NFL and said, here's your one warning. Don't do it again. You're going to lose 8 games or whatever the number of games would be. I also have a hard time believing that something with this stiff of a punishment that we're seeing with Jamison Williams was not covered at least 2 or 3 times by individual teams with their players. Hey, you cannot bet on anything online. They have you geo-tracked. You can't do it if you are on any type of team facility that includes the bus, team hotel, anything on the road. You can't do it. But the way Logan made it sound was almost just like, well, it's just kind of part of your NFLPA training, and what they send you and what they go over
It's
every
work
year.
day.
And I'm not trying to say that the guys shouldn't pay attention to that and know the rules on gambling on their own.
Well,
and I'm not letting them off the hook on this. I just think that there's a certain dereliction of duty from the player's agent or the team or someone in this if they weren't told explicitly, you cannot bet on anything on team property ever.
Well,
if there's any bit
it's one of two things.
If there's any bit of surprise to this, that's unacceptable.
It's one of two things. It's either the policy was not detailed until after some things took place with Ridley. And again, I don't know how minute the details were when Ridley was suspended for the year. But we were told, and no one has disputed the fact, that he bet on the NFL, right? This is different. This is why Williams only received 6 games. But Chad, the fact that he received 6 games tells me that they give zero you-know-whats about a player trying to make an excuse when it comes to this policy. And if I'm a player leader in the NFLPA, I am making sure that every agent that is approved through the NFL Players Association is dead straight with the players about this, because it affects the agents just like it affects the player, and it affects the team. The teams are going to be antsy about it regardless. But ultimately, it affects their bottom dollar if you're suspended. But keep in mind, DeAndre Hopkins, to tie back in with Williams, DeAndre Hopkins was suspended 6 weeks for testing positive for Osterine. And Jamison Williams was suspended 6 weeks because he bet on a sport that wasn't the NFL. They're treating it the exact same way. It is a performance-enhancing drug according to the NFL. You're on the same plane with them, and I don't understand it at all.
That doesn't make any sense, and I just have to believe that someone was just beating this over their head, saying, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. This level of surprise about it, to me, is shocking.
Well, but the NFL for decades, what would they say, Chad, if you had a topic about Vegas, the NFL in Vegas?
They would tell you to stop.
You wouldn't take phone calls locally about it. Your team's not moving to Vegas because the NFL has nothing to do with gambling whatsoever. And all of a sudden, it's a 180, and it's all about that because that's where the dollars are, especially during COVID. Everyone's sitting at home, and you've got UFC on. There's only a handful of things that were available to you. But the betting apps were launching while everything went legal state to state, and they were spending money in different states. And the NFL jumped on that early.
If I was an agent of any establishment, if I was an agent that had a good client list in the past and could be a little bit choosy on my clients, I would have a rule about if I'm going to represent you, I'm going to go into your phone and delete any app that you have that's sports wagering while you're my client, while you're playing. We're not going to take the chance based on what's happening now. You can't have it. You can bet when you're done playing. That may sound like an authoritarian government that, hey, this is a freedom that all other Americans have. I don't care, because you can't get popped for a half a season because you bet on a mixed martial arts fight on a team bus. We're not even going to take the chance on that happening if it's going to be this severe. I think it's ridiculous it's this severe. I think it should have been a harsh warning to these players, not an 8-game suspension over not betting on the NFL. But if I'm an agent that's got any pull and I can be choosy with my clients, that's a stipulation I'm laying out there.
I want to side with the league on this, though, thinking there already has been a harsh warning prior to this, because there's not like you have 25 to 50 players that are involved in this, the betting news, right? It's been like, 6 or 7 guys now. So the fact that the league has roughly 2,500 players, and you've got 6 or 7 guys who are a part of this, and they're arguing. I mean, I want to think that the harsh reality was already laid down prior to it, and someone was sleeping through a meeting, but maybe not. But from here on forward, agents got to let their guys know.
Yeah.
And teams especially. Chad, in England, an English soccer player was suspended for 15 months for accepting 232 breaches of the Football Association's rules on betting. He had already been hit with an 8-month ban, a 15-month ban. Then a psychiatrist, a psychiatry expert, diagnosed him as a gambling addict. And his suspension was reduced to 8 months, not 15. So, I mean, think about the world we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, what he did was he pled insanity. In terms of what you can't do in betting in sports, he committed murder, and this is like a murderer pleading insanity and getting off with it, because that's what happened. He did bet on. They reduced his sentence based on a plea of insanity. He is insanely addicted to gambling, so for that reason, he wasn't in his right mind. He didn't know what he was doing. So we're going to diminish his punishment.
Yvonne Toney is his name, but he's only competed in one game within the recent aspect of this story, and he says the games that he bet on, or the matches he placed money on, did not include any of the matches that he participated in. That one match.
Well, it also is reported that he bet against his team in games he wasn't playing in, 13 different times. Pete Rose should have pled gambling addiction. 13. And he'd be back in baseball. That dude only bet on his team to win.
13 bets in 7 different matches to lose, but all losing outcomes.
Yes. Pete Rose never bet against his team. And back in, when he got popped for this, no one really took mental health or addiction or anything that seriously. But if he got popped for it today and was betting on his team, he could cast the plea of, I'm a gambling addict. And he'd probably be in the Hall of Fame right now, and baseball would welcome back with open arms.
Davey Hudson brought this to our attention knowing that we were going to talk about Williams today.
I really respect Ivan Toney, because the fact that I'm assuming he did not think he was going to play, and he believes in himself that much that they're not putting me on the field, so we're just going to lose. I'm like, all right, man, I respect it. Tip of the cap.
Yeah, I know this is a match I'm not going to participate in, and these losers out there, it's like Jack Parkman in Major League Two, and he's like, I'm a winner, you're all losers, and I'm tired of being on a team full of losers.
He has 63 goals and 111 appearances, so it's not like he's a practice squad player.
Not bad.
But he bet on Brentford to lose, and they're now supporting him. The club will do everything possible to provide support to him and his family. That's where we're headed, Chad.
Yeah. Hey. Look, there's legitimate addictions. I'm not, trying to deny that. But if you can find the right psychologist to agree with your diagnosis, your self-diagnosis, these types of things can happen. You can have your sentence reduced.
Coming up, we've never seen a team come down from 0-3 to win a series. Boston may just do that all of a sudden against Miami. Chad's got big thoughts on that.
They're favored by Vegas to do that right now.
And they open the series.
It's never happened before.
Heavy favorite to win the title. And all of a sudden, we're back on the Celtics bandwagon somehow. Also, Pat McAfee should be calling Dave Portnoy for advice. Details next on Hot Mic.
Let's see the video that John Morant was dumb enough to have posted. A guy said this: John Morant has more money to go anywhere in the world, and he chooses to go to Instagram Live. Now, John Morant is a fool. We know John Morant is a fool. It was two fools sitting down, Jalen Rose and John Morant, for a ridiculously idiotic fake interview a few months ago, all right? So John Morant does what every NBA player does. He hangs out. There's always a little guy. Usually it's a little white guy. But watch this video. John Morant's going to flash a gun. All right, you're that stupid, fine. But watch the little idiot driving the car as you watch the video that ultimately is going to cost John Morant a ton of money. We can't believe he's any dumber than he is. He's already the dumbest dude walking except for Dwight Howard, and we'll get into that. But watch this video. There they are. Look at this idiot right here. He's looking around like, hey, am I cool? Oh, he's dancing like a little, so John Morant's trying. John Morant looks like a girl. I hate to say it, but he does. Look at it. I mean, he flashes a gun, and then they put the thing down. Now it's been deleted. But, I mean, his little buddies look like, I don't know. They kind of look like the Bengals back in. Look at this little guy. There's always a little punk like that hanging out with a star. There's always a little punk. Shaq had a little white guy. I remember when we were filming Blue Chips. Everybody usually has a little white guy. But I'm telling you, this dude is about as hard as this cup of coffee. Ain't nothing hard. He looks like a girl. Seriously, if I were advising John Morant, you know what I would tell him? Cut your hair and get serious about your craft. Just change everything about you. Seriously, just change everything about you. You're a great player. You're a great talent. You have a great family, although those people have lost their mind as well, his family. But I'd tell you, get serious about your craft. Put your life into your craft. Forget about the other crap. Cut your hair, change your look, change your thing, change everything about you, or grow your hair longer. I don't care. But what I usually used to tell people, and I know I'm the old guy, but it always works, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. I've told guys in business, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. Now, well, that's racist. Hey, what does hair have to do with it? No, it just means that you're changing up what you are doing. It means you are getting serious about what you should be serious about. Because let's be honest, this guy's career could be over. I don't know. You get playing with a gun, next thing you know, you could end up in jail, career could be over. So get serious about the one thing that works the most. Did you ever see Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Barkley? Did you ever see him with, like, I don't know, something to distract? You never did. Do you ever see LeBron James with something to distract? No. LeBron James serious about his craft. He's not out there trying to put purple in his hair, or put green in his hair, or make his hair look like my mother's back in the 1970s where you had the beehive going like Miranda. No, you never saw that. Of course you don't. I'm serious, you don't. You know, the girl that comes in the office with purple hair is never the leading seller in the office. It's just, she's just not. The guy that comes in with all of a sudden a face tattoo is not the leading producer in the company. He just never is. People that are serious about their craft get things done. People that know and understand, hey, look, we got to get this done. And if I'm John Morant, you can play kid, you can play tough guy, you can play a little child, you can play try to look like a girl, I don't know. You can have all that feminine energy that John Morant has off the court and your little effeminate friends off the court, but it's a man's league.
Hope all of you are already on your way to Memorial Day weekend. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. Thank you to the family of those military men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our country. Chad, Boston, all of a sudden they're showing life. And not just showing life, but they're clearly the better team than the Miami Heat. But this is almost a reverse course on what I saw from Game 3, based on what I've seen from Games 4 and 5 against Miami, where when the Celtics hit from beyond the arc, they're not going to lose that night.
Yeah.
And when they miss, they just tank.
It's just crazy that, you know, we're talking about a down 3-0. They're resting starters in the fourth quarter. They're getting blown out so much. Grant Williams going nose to nose with Jimmy Butler, talking trash with him. Jimmy Butler comes back and wins Game 2 in Boston before that. And the Celtics are dead after a dominant Game 7 performance at home against the Sixers. Now suddenly they're dead and buried. And all of a sudden, over the course of, 3 days, you know, the Game 4 and then Game 5 back home, they take care of business in Game 4, look really good in Miami, go back home, they dominate. Really, that game wasn't that close late in the game. Celtics win easily. And here we are. The NBA is the only professional sports league to never, ever, which blows people's minds, mine when I heard this, have had a team erase a 3-0 deficit and win a series. All the playoff series, all the 7-game series in NBA history, not one single team has come from behind down 3-0 to win a series. So the Boston Celtics went from punchline to possible history over the course of a few short days. And here's what's nuts about all this. They're favored on the road in Game 6 in Miami. They're a 3.5-point favorite at FanDuel right now. Win that game and go back home, they're definitely going to be the favorite to win Game 7 at home.
But here's the crazy thing.
We could be looking at history.
They were favored in the first 3 games, too. To my knowledge, the only time Miami was favored was Game 4.
I'm not saying that Vegas has been right about this series the entire time. I'm just merely stating that it's not like they're going back to Miami for the slaughter, at least on paper.
Well, now the pressure's on the Heat, the 8 seed. The pressure is on the 8 seed to close it out now. Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
And to me, championships and success go in waves, city to city. If you just think about who's been successful and who hasn't over the years. Here's Florida, and specifically this area of Florida, where right now, Chad, you've got Miami with a chance to go to the NBA Finals as an 8 seed. And the Florida Panthers, and they're not the 8 seed in the NHL. They're headed to the Stanley Cup Final because the NHL now does this 4-tier, 4-pod playoff system. But they have the worst record of any team going into the postseason. And they've already advanced to the Stanley Cup Final. They're awaiting the winner of the Golden Knights and Stars. Yeah. And I believe Vegas leads 3-1 in that. Point being, you've got the Florida Panthers and the Miami Heat rolling. Miami's 1 win away. I still think playoff Jimmy is a factor in Game 6 and closes it out.
Yeah, I still lean Heat winning the series, but it's impossible not to look at it and see possible history being made. Similar run to Tampa teams, with the Bucks winning. We're talking about with Florida.
Yes,
and then
the
Lightning. With the Lightning winning.
And then the Rays
year.
made it to the World Series.
Yeah.
And how crazy is it?
Florida's hot right now.
How crazy is it that you could play that bad in Game 3 to where everyone knew they just threw in the towel, to then turn around and win 2 straight? From the mentality of that locker room then, where the coach is standing up saying, it's on me, I didn't have them ready to go. Like, seriously? And all of a sudden
I
now...
mocked that by Missoula, and we all mocked it when he said it, but...
he took the bullet.
He took the bullet, and it's worked since. I mean, I can't, ignore the result since he said that. I think it's ridiculous that the, young coach who's younger than some of the players, younger than Al Horford, has to stand up and act like it's my fault these professional athletes weren't ready for the game, weren't excited about playing in the Eastern Conference Finals or whatever it was. But he took the blame, and it's worked since then.
Ben Mintz is going to be on the show with us on Tuesday, back from the long weekend. Mincy, formerly of Barstool, Wake Up Mincy, fired by Penn Entertainment due to a racial slur that he used while rapping lyrics on his show on Barstool, Bone Thugs and Harmony. And in the moment, watching the clip, and you can see it at OutKick.com, Chad, it's obvious that he knew what had happened. It was an honest mistake, but also incredibly stupid. And from Barstool's end of it, I thought, suspension at worst. And that had to be what he was thinking too. And then Penn Entertainment, which now owns Barstool, sold by Dave Portnoy to Penn Entertainment, they got rid of him based on pressure through government agencies that could keep Penn Entertainment from being licensed to game in certain states across the eastern side of the country. And that was coming from them. That came from Portnoy. Portnoy says that he and Big Cat had Mincy's back on this. Meanwhile, you haven't heard much from Mincy, period. He's not trying to play the victim in this, but at the same time, the vast majority of the reaction has been on Mincy's side. Because I think if you know the situation, it just doesn't add up to other situations that have been relevant to this point. And Penn, they cratered to the pressure of the government in Massachusetts and other spots that were specifically mentioning not licensing Barstool because they didn't like Barstool. And for a site that is anti-cancel culture because they do and say whatever they want, it was the exact opposite in the way they treated one of their employees for 2.5 years. I can't wait to chat with him on Tuesday about it. Plus, get his thoughts on some SEC headlines because he's a massive Southeastern Conference fan.
Yeah, it'll be good to talk to him next week. And this story's got a lot of layers to it.
Several.
It killed Dave Portnoy. It killed Erica Nardini, the CEO. It killed Barstool Big Cat, Dan Katz, over this. And how do I know that? They said it. I mean, they all but rolled their parent company under the bus and said, this is them. This is big, bad corporate America making this decision. I think it's stupid. I know Mincy. I know he's a good guy. I know it was an honest mistake. We didn't want to fire him. He feels awful about it. There is a bug right in my face right now. It's terrible. I mean, look, it's terrible for this reason. When you are an entrepreneur like Dave Portnoy, whether you like Barstool or not, irrelevant. Dave Portnoy built an empire out of nothing with his own idea, with what he wanted to do, and he did it exactly the way he wanted to do it. And when he did exactly the way he wanted to do it, he built Barstool into this hybrid sports fan, bro culture, hot girl, just massive hit that made a ton of money. And then he sold out. You know, he's laughing about people calling him a sellout, but he did sold. He
admitted that he did.
Yeah, he sold out.
He's laughing because he's like, you think I don't know I sold out? Yes, yeah. I sold out. And we knew whenever we sold that we couldn't say things like this.
Yeah,
and it still crushes him.
Yeah, it does. And look, this is not me, you know, I'm not some anti-capitalist that's saying he shouldn't have sold out or taken the money or any of that. He did what he wanted to do with that.
$551 million.
But this is again the byproduct of what happens when companies like a Barstool answer to a corporate overlord. And there's a tie in here with Pat. By the way, Dave Portnoy may not be at Barstool when his contract's up. He's talked about that. That's not a given that he stays with the company, given everything that's going on, which Barstool without Dave Portnoy would be a huge blow to Barstool.
Well, it's not Barstool. It's not the value of the $551 million for Barstool that Penn paid is Dave Portnoy. It starts there, and then it's Big Cat, PFT, and others, KFC. And look, so it's about the brand that you purchased versus the brand that you're backing.
You bring up a good point, Hutton, because when Dave Portnoy leaves, or if he leaves,
which would be in January of 2025. He says 20 months. The way he described it makes me think he's counting down the months. He said 20 months his contract is up. 20 months from now, I believe, is January 2025. And with that in mind, he didn't just name a year. He gave a very specific answer on when it's up with Penn.
The value of Barstool is way less without Dave Portnoy. And Dave Portnoy is going to take so many of his loyal followers and all the stoolies out there. He's going to take them with him wherever he goes and whatever he does next.
But it's not the value of Barstool. It's the value of Penn Entertainment that goes down.
Yes.
Because Portnoy's brand remains.
Portnoy's brand remains, but the Barstool brand, which is a big part of Penn National, takes the hit.
But Barstool in and of itself is just the name itself. But the branding goes with Portnoy and others that have been there and that have built it up to what it is. So Barstool 2.0 becomes that much more valuable, and you bring back everybody that, you know, Penn got rid of based on what they said online.
But at least publicly, this thing started to unravel. Why? Because they fired one of his friends that he loved and loved working at Barstool.
Yep.
And he stood up on the conference room table and said, do not do this. This is stupid. I don't want you to do it. I'm going to crush you for doing it if you do. And they did it anyway.
But Penn has also backed Portnoy with allegations over the last year and a half.
Because they're his bosses. Let me get to the tie-in on Pat McAfee. And we may not have enough time for it right here. Pat McAfee's going to be in a similar situation to ESPN at some point, likely.
Yes.
One of his guys are going to say something. They're going to cross a boss the wrong way at Disney, ESPN, or something's going to go down. And one of his new boss at ESPN is going to say, this guy must be fired. One of the guys on his show, not good enough. We don't like him. He was disrespectful. He said some word we don't like. He talked about someone we don't like. Get rid of him. And Pat McAfee, another entrepreneur, strong-headed guy that knows what he wants, knows the content he wants to put out every day, knows exactly what he wants to do. He's not going to take that news lying down. And this is a possible precursor for what's to come. I truly believe Barstool, Portnoy, and Penn National, Penn Entertainment, you could see some similarities with Pat McAfee Show, Disney, ESPN at some point. Again, don't know.
But McAfee's not nearly
great.
as controversial as Barstool.
Not nearly as controversial, but
the others could be in what you're saying with him.
It doesn't have to be controversy even. Like I said, it could be they said something wrong to a boss or made a joke at a party they didn't like. And they're going to come and say, you need to fire this guy who's been your buddy and who's been with you from day one on your show when you were in a garage doing it. And he's not going to want to do it.
He's already viewed as the guy who gets what's reported to be $10 million a year during a time where Disney laid off 7,000 employees and cut $5 billion in money, in revenue,
and
in salary.
He does not strike me as a guy that's going to be like, okay, yeah, you're right, Disney. Let's get rid of all these guys. You're right. I took the money from you. Do whatever you want. He's not going to do that.
But I don't know how ESPN lands him if that's within a week and a half, that's the headline. They're upset. There's already people disgruntled with McAfee about all this.
What do you mean?
Well, the headline is they're disgruntled based on the fact that Disney cut salary, right? They cut cost by $5 billion. And a big chunk of that was ESPN employees who are now, the ones that remain were friends with the people who lost their jobs, and you've got the McAfee and crew coming in. And by all rights, I mean, that ESPN needs Pat McAfee. So I don't think it's the same as Barstool and Penn, where Penn came in and bought everything. They bought a chunk of it, and then they purchased the rest of it. To me, this is ESPN buying a piece of it with the option to buy the rest of it.
Yeah.
You didn't hear about this whenever Penn was investing in Barstool. Now Penn owns them.
No, but it's just, to me, it's a very bad business move by Penn. If we're just going to go back to the initial decision, just don't.
I agree.
Why do you make Dave Portnoy mad?
But,
I mean, you want him there as long as possible, knowing
especially
that that's
after
the
having
value
his
of the
back
brand
with everything that went on.
Well, exactly.
Allegation-wise.
That's this. You got to know people better and know how Dave Portnoy is going to respond to that and react to that when he's hemmed up in a corner and you fire one of his guys.
But the optic, again, I am a realist at heart. It's very black and white with me. It's very what I see is what I perceive to be the truth. Okay, Mincy is a white Southerner who's an Ole Miss fan, and he wasn't really a stoolie whenever he joined Barstool and was hired on. I think this was used as an example, and it came back to bite them because Barstool, led by Portnoy and Big Cat, had his back not just behind the scenes but publicly. Yeah, and then all the stoolies are backing Mincy, as they should in this, because if you saw it instead of just hear about it or read a headline, it's a terrible mistake, but it's not a fireable mistake. I don't think there's
it was to Penn.
No ill
Penn
intent
Entertainment.
Based on the pressure of the government agencies that are handing out the licenses for Penn Entertainment, and that Portnoy has admitted that was the reason why.
Portnoy also said, I told them this is a mistake.
I
told them that he can apologize. He feels awful about it. He's not a bad guy. You were making a big mistake. Penn Entertainment should listen to Dave Portnoy. And I'm sure they do on a number of things. But this is an issue. And I just happy for Pat McAfee. Think he's great. Think the show's great. Do we think Disney's going to listen to Pat McAfee on all these issues if they go and say, we got to fire this guy on your staff because he said this or did this? The answer is no. Disney's not going to do it. Disney puppeteers ESPN. They're going to fire whoever they want and say, deal with it to Pat McAfee, just like, which is an even more extreme version because Penn Entertainment is not Disney. It's not at that size. And even they went against Dave Portnoy, the guy who is the brand of Barstool. Right. And told him, shove off. We're going to fire the guy. We don't care what you say, which prompted Dave Portnoy to go on every outlet they have and do everything but curse out everyone at Penn Entertainment.
And and he'll continue to do that.
I don't want to be just doomsday scenario type guy with the whole McAfee experiment. I'm just simply pointing out these are the possible pitfalls that we could see with this deal also.
Chad, I've always imagined if someone opened the emergency door, the hatch on a plane, while I'm in the middle of a flight, let's just say from here to New York for going to Fox, right? What I saw in a video captured by a couple of passengers because some idiot opened a door. When we come back, I want to play this and get your reaction to it because it's not nearly what I expected it to be, but also terrifying in the same breath. The emergency door being open mid-flight. That's next on Hot Mic.
My primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up. Quit littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. 6th and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can search out OutKick if you're not already part of that. Hope you'll subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Join us in the chat daily.
How about Colin coming with the Red Hot Chili Peppers? That's a new one.
Yeah,
that's
and speaking of airplanes, so the emergency exit door, it's latched and then it's like buckled in almost. And I'm thinking about the cabin pressure, and everyone knows the announcements that's made, right, by the flight attendants prior to takeoff. A man on Asiana Airlines was arrested for opening the emergency exit door while the plane was 700 feet in the air before landing. Chad, I
don't mean to laugh, but the photo is just like the woman's scarf just blowing uncontrollably, and she's just sitting there.
And she's in the exit row, and I'm thinking, and as I see this, it's both terrifying, but also like much calmer than I would have expected that door opened in the air. This is you think Hollywood has hyped this up too much for me, or is this
I think so. 700 feet up in the air is far different from
very close
cruising altitude.
Sure.
So if you're like mid-flight and you're up, then I think if you're right there, you're going to get sucked out. I do think Hollywood probably gets that right. You said Asiana Airlines?
Yeah.
When I hear Asiana Airlines, I think of the fictional Oceanic Airlines flight from Lost. And I'm pretty sure in that fictional plane crash, the door comes open or something rips off, and immediately
everyone's sucked out of there.
A woman gets sucked out and flies out the door.
Yeah, out the window, not the door.
Right, flies completely out of the plane. So I did have memories of that when I saw it. This is a little bit encouraging, though, if someone goes nuts. And opens it up at 700 feet, at least you're not going to fly out.
It's also encouraging to me, if you're willing to be an idiot like this and open that door.
You got to be jailed.
At he was arrested.
Okay, good.
I don't know what happened to him. But
depending on where he was,
I also think
he may have been executed.
How fair.
Singapore, they'll kill you for that.
Is it refreshing to know? I don't know the word to use. Comforting to know that if this guy tried this at 33,000 feet, that the pressure on the outside probably wouldn't have allowed him to open the door to begin with. Like this is the height where he was actually strong enough to get the door open.
That gives me some comfort. Because I would be way more freaked out if this was just something that anyone could pull off mid-flight at a cruising altitude at its height. That would make me scared. But to know that the pressure's so much you can't open it.
I don't know that to be true. I want to think that now.
Oh, well, I am going to think it. Here's what I'm going to do. It's in my head now, and that's what I'm going to believe when I'm up in the air.
I'm always
no
going
one
to
could
think
ever
about
open this door.
Asiana Airlines, though, now, whenever I see the emergency door close.
And I suddenly want to go back and rewatch Lost after hearing this story.
Scarf with the woman sitting next to the emergency exit row.
Well, because she's just so still, she looks calm.
I know.
As the scarf is blown because she's just blown back in the seat. It's funny. Come on. That part of it's funny.
Yeah.
She lived.
700 feet.
Get over it.
We think.
It's funny.
Coming up, headlines including YouTube giving a big update on the NFL season pass.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent. and every girl is uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Mike Gunzelman, the Gun Show from OutKick.com, will be with us in 20 minutes. Plenty of headlines to hit throughout the show. We'll hit some college football and more. Details surfacing about Mike Bond at USC and his time back at Cincinnati. Odd timing for this. With the leak last Friday that he was resigning at USC, and then here we are going into the Memorial Day weekend. News dump day, by the way. News dump day in about an hour. Mike Bond at USC saying there were other things beyond health concerns at USC. They're pointing back to Cincinnati. We'll detail that. Plus, we get weird with Davey Hudson as well, which is going to be great. It's a fill-in-the-blank day for Get Weird.
I also believe, based on our story about the British soccer star earlier in the gambling addiction, sometimes health concerns can be a catch-all for other problems. Or it can be an excuse for other problems.
Yes. Stepping away due to health concerns.
Not even just, there could be health concerns. I'm saying just like an addiction is a health concern, that could be an excuse / reason for other things that are going on.
Yeah, that's fair.
We'll find out.
Someone would validate that report, over the weekend, last weekend, I'm saying.
We'll find out.
The timing was odd. Chad, we're going to find out if Shannon Sharpe and Kwame Brown want to face off. So the former number 1 overall pick, he's got opinions on everything, which we love. And Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed on FS1 had this to say about Kwame Brown's beef with LeBron James.
I'm still don't know what's his end game here. You're talking about what Kobe would have done. What would you have been done? What would you have done? You're number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I don't get it because LeBron was in a no-win situation. People say, LeBron, why would you settle for a 3? Why would you shoot a step back this? He drives the ball. Jamal Murray does a great job of tying him up. And that even as he holds onto the ball, he's trying to get the shot up. Aaron Gordon blocks it. Now you're saying, well, he should have pulled up. It's easy to say what you should have done after the fact of knowing what has happened.
Yep.
And Skip, he said, you're supposed to be great? Really, Kwame, of all the people, he should never, ever question anybody's greatness. Because this is what we know. If there's a Mount Rushmore for busts in the NBA history, whether he's the first head, the second head, the third, or the fourth, he's on Mount Rushmore of bust NBA players. There's no question. And then he's going to question a guy that's, whether you say he's first, second, he's top 5 of the greatest players to ever play. I remember I heard him talk when Kobe scored 81. He's talking about he's hitting damn good screens. Really? Dude, you the number 1 pick in the draft, and you talk about you setting screens.
Yep.
Talk about the games that you played. Talk about the game-winning shots you hit.
I love Shannon Sharp, personally, on Undisputed.
I do too.
This is why Dylan Brooks not following through on the trash talk matters. Because Dylan Brooks is the only one that has tried to step up and hip check the king. And that's why it was a story when the Grizzlies faced the Lakers. Because the media, by and large, has LeBron's back on everything. Just ask Kwame Brown.
You a guest in the house of this basketball talk. Didn't you know that? And now, since you don't want to act like a guest in this and you want to invalidate me, you football playing dummy. There ain't no first downs in basketball, clown. How you gonna try to invalidate a man who was the number 1 draft pick, boy? You wanna try to put some bass in your voice when you talking to me? When you on a panel with that buckled you down, boy? You on a panel with a white boy that blamed his coach for not making it to college, and you wanna try to invalidate me? Are you a clown or what? I'm so glad that you just exposed yourself, you clown. You think you gonna put some bass in your voice when you talking to me? And that white boy made you say, I'm just trying to let me finish. Let me finish. You a guest in this house of basketball. Ain't no first downs in fucking basketball, you big, tall, thick-tongued punk.
This is a 10-7 round for Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
10-7 round for Shannon Sharp. Because I heard 10 references of clown in their response, plus more beeps and bleeps, because we can't play it on terrestrial radio.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Shannon kept it clean for FS1.
That is one. Shannon Sharp made his point much better in tying it all in with Kwame Brown. And what Shannon Sharp is doing is comparing Kwame Brown's basketball career with LeBron James, if he's going to sit and knock LeBron James. I will have to give some marks for Kwame Brown. If we're scoring it definitely for Shannon Sharp, I'm with you. But I got to give him some points for the low-key, chill vibe of just driving around with the sunroof down, and you're seeing the buildings.
It's a power move.
It looks like he's on the beach somewhere, maybe Southern California, maybe in South Florida. But like the condos around him, driving around just calm, in movement.
He played 12 years in the league.
Yeah, I mean that's
12.
Look, he had a decent. He was the number 1 overall pick, and he was Michael Jordan's guy.
I know, but if you think about busts in any other sport,
with the Wizards,
and then you pair it with 12 years, that doesn't happen.
No, he's not one of the busts of all time. You don't play 12 years and be one of the all-time busts.
What about Ice Cube's 3-on-3 league?
Michael Olowokandi was a bigger bust, just off the top of my head. Greg Oden is a far bigger bust than Kwame Brown was. But he's now 41. He's also a disappointment based on the number 1 overall pick and the hype coming out of high school.
I know.
For Kwame
that
Brown.
makes me feel so old,
And
though.
he's also not LeBron James. So Shannon Sharp wins the round. This is a feud that I'm here for. I want to see more from these guys on this. And I never knew that putting bass in your voice was such a threatening thing. Hutton's got a lot of bass in his voice. I didn't know that was a threat every time. But I love how he kept going back to 2 things. Hutton pointed out clown is what Kwame Brown said, and you're going to put some bass in your voice and do this. That was the second point that he wanted to make. That's really it was a 3-point plan. Some people have 12 points they want to make. People run for president. They run on more points than that. Maybe they run on fewer. But the 3 points that Kwame Brown, I believe, was making was, 1, you're a clown. 2, don't put that bass in your voice. And 3, you're a football player, not a basketball player. I think I just summed up his entire argument.
Yes.
Don't talk basketball because you sit there and you talk basketball with a white boy who blamed I didn't know that Skip Bayless blamed not playing in college on his coach. I have some buddies that have the same argument.
He couldn't play in Vanderbilt because of his coach?
I have some buddies.
He went to Vandy, right?
People I know that'd be like, I would have been SEC had it not been for my high school coach holding me back. I'm sure there's probably a case where that happens, but not that often. I think if you're that undeniably good, you're going to find your way on the field in high school somehow and show out.
So you're so upset that your coach kept you out of the SEC that you couldn't even make the team at St. Thomas Aquinas is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. You know, my line all the time is that if someone asked me, like, why didn't you play college basketball? It's because I didn't know that school was so important, that Division III school I could have played basketball for, that my ACT score actually mattered, and I needed to get above what I got in order to get into that really good Division III school. My grades were great. My ACT score was bad because I never studied for it, because I didn't have anyone telling me, hey, we should get you an ACT or SAT prep class. Maybe you should study for it this time. I just thought, hey, I've got good grades. I'll be really good in the ACT. That was incorrect.
I'm sure
I didn't play basketball for that reason, not because of my high school coach.
Chad, I'm sure
who's a really good guy.
I've disappointed my parents far more many times than the example I'm about to give. But you mentioned the ACT. How many times did you take the ACT?
Twice.
Okay, me too.
I scored the exact same score both times.
So
because I didn't study either time.
I made a 24 on the ACT my first time.
Yeah.
And my dad was so disappointed.
By the way, that's what I made both times.
So disappointed that I had to retake it, and I actually tried on the second time and scored less.
Did you study? Like, did you take one of the classes?
For the no, not I didn't take the class, but I did actually like put a lot of effort into it and scored less, which tells me like a lot. Again, I am one. No one has ever asked to see my diploma.
No.
Ever. So
no one's ever asked my ACT score. We're just saying it on the show right now.
And in a day and age where you have OnlyFans and TikTok, do you have to go to college and pay $50,000?
No, I think the value of a college education is being diminished by the day in America. I think by the day it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have anyone, and I'm not trying to, just sit here and put my parents on blast.
Oh, I know.
I'm a first generation college kid in my family. So no one else in my family went to college or even really thought about
James.
it. Yeah. Bronny James minus a bill, $1 billion.
Bronny's he's a first-generation college guy.
That his dad has. Yeah, but I'm saying.
For at least a year.
Little different circumstances with how he's being raised in Brentwood, California.
No doubt.
As opposed to me in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, living with my grandparents and my parents.
Going to the cellar to get the milk.
There was no instruction on someone like, hey, you really need to study for this. We got to get you a test.
Right.
We got to get you ACT ready. We got to get your college. I applied to Pepperdine University. Why? Because I'd heard Malibu's awesome. And I was like, it's in Malibu. It's on the beach. And I applied. That was the only reason. I knew nothing about the school. Didn't know if it offered the major I wanted to get into. Nothing about it. I didn't study for the ACT. I got a 24 both times. Shocking, I know. 24 first time, didn't study.
Apparently it's very easy.
Didn't study for the second one, got a 24 then. I needed a 28, I believe it was. I had like a 3.9 something GPA, so that was fine. But I remember I needed a 28 to go play at Sewanee, University of the South, which is a really, it's like a smaller Vanderbilt.
Former member of the SEC.
Former member of the SEC, but it's a very, very prestigious, good school.
Yeah.
And I was going to get – they don't even offer full – Division III has no full athletic scholarship. But they wanted me to play basketball, and I was going to get a third of my school paid for. Third through basketball. You'll love this part of it, Hutton, because your dad worked in financial aid also for
He did,
college.
yeah.
I was going to get a third paid through basketball, a third through loans, and I was going to have to come up with a third. That third I was going to have to come up with was double the amount to go to the state school, the University of Tennessee. If I would have gone to private school, Sewanee, I would have been playing basketball all the time.
Paying them to be a part of the team.
Paying them double, a third of it. Now, granted, the other third was going to go, and all of mine was loans too to Tennessee, but that's how much more expensive it was than just going to the University of Tennessee.
Yeah. Nothing. My dad just disgraced. I'm awful at math. I'm adopted. My sister's not. She's a math wizard. And here I am. Just, you scored what in math on your ACT? I'm like, sorry. I have to guess C.
I love that you tried.
I've got to guess C.
And you probably just put too much pressure on yourself.
No, it wasn't that.
You know, nowadays parents would probably put you into counseling
Chad,
after
at this
that.
point,
Did we put too much pressure on them?
No pressure. I was just an idiot. Still am when it comes to finance.
I mean, look, the ACT's not easy. That's what we're trying to tell everyone. It's not an easy test to take. If you could, all those questions, what would you do if you could go back and tell your younger self something?
But think about the pressure.
What would you tell yourself?
Hey.
What would you tell to me, it would just be that these things are important. These things aren't, but here are the things that are really important.
Graduate, high school and college. But don't stress over the fact that it's hanging over your head. You've got to make a certain score.
Don't be Stetson Bennett. Get your degree.
If you're going to be in college for 6 years, get your degree.
Yeah, one of two things, Hutton. Get your degree if you're going to be in college for 6 years, or win 2 national titles as a starting quarterback. That's why Stetson Bennett's let off the hook.
I'll say this: like there is a perception that the people that don't attend college though are idiots and like rednecks. There's a guy right now driving for Walmart that makes $100,000 a year. That's where they're starting now in hiring. Now have a college degree and go get a job and tell me what you're making right out of college.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guys I know that did not even go to college, they're the ones that are doing very well with whatever profession they chose. And it's also like the guy that when my grill breaks, I have to call them to ask for advice on how to fix something because I don't know how to do it. Right? And I mean that as a total compliment.
Yes.
Like my blade is messed up on my lawnmower. Oh, I'll call the guy who didn't go to college because they know far better about this stuff than I do. And I hate that about me.
My ceiling fan's
and
light is out. I need
them.
to replace this bulb.
I remember it was me and one of my cousins were the only two in our family, like extended family even, to go to college. And I remember one time he was sitting in his floor with his like young wife. He was younger at the time, and he was trying to put together a ceiling fan. And I remember it was just, he had all these directions laid out like he was Carrie in Homeland trying to crack the case.
Christmas Eve.
Oh, no, it was worse than that. It was like a full tableau of everything out there. He's got them laid out. He's got all the pieces laid out. And it's like 15 pieces tops. And he's just looking at it, and he's got it in his hands, and he just says, almost in tears, I don't know why I can't figure this out, why I can't do these things. I feel the same way at times when I'm trying to assemble something. There are certain things that I just look, and I'm thinking, I'm very verbal in that I need it spelled out. When you give me the graph with the pictures, I'm like, is this the same piece that's here? I'm having to try to aim it up to the actual paper to see if it's the same piece.
You're having to prove you're not AI to the instructions.
Oh, no one's going to confuse me for AI. Anyone that's looking at
this guy,
this
but
guy
online
clearly is not a robot.
I have to pick every photo with a crosswalk in it.
Oh, I know.
You know, and there's like a little sliver of a crosswalk that's left in one of the blocks, and you don't click it, and you're clicked out.
What we're trying to tell the kids out there is to just keep what's important. That's the message.
That's right.
As we go into Memorial Day weekend. Thank you. Show's over. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you.
I was about to say screw the rundown, but we have Mike Gunzelman coming up. The gun show. We'll get into a lot more.
We got to ask the gun show if he could fix a ceiling fan, and also what would be the advice he would give his younger self.
Oh, that's great.
Now that we're on this path, we got to ask him what he would do.
Before Guns joins us, YouTube and NFL Sunday Ticket. I don't know if this matters to the casual fan. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. For customers of the YouTube TV package, again, this is for the customers who are subscribed to YouTube TV. There's a different payment platform for you if you are for NFL Sunday Ticket. Each account gives you up to 3 streams simultaneous. But for NFL Sunday Ticket, you have unlimited simultaneous streams as long as you're within the same residence. NFL Sunday Ticket available, so you can stream all the. I guess they're assuming like the 1% who's subscribing to this have like 8 screens in their home, and they're going to like screen all these games at the same time, or click back and forth. But
I am wake me up when it's reaction day to all the screw ups on the first week.
I don't.
Prime Video did not.
I don't think they're going to.
The moment though that I said that, we talked about Prime Video not having huge issues, right? Other than what I still, to this day, claim is some sort of audio issue that makes both Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit sound more quiet.
Yes.
On the broadcast compared to everything else.
Yeah.
Compared to everyone else I hear. I think some of it's their energy. A big part of it, though, is the audio quality of it. I go to a softball practice the other night, and we get to talking about it with some dads, and they were going through all the issues. It was 5 minutes behind. We'd constantly get an error message during the game, and I'm thinking, I had never heard of any of these.
I mean,
I do think we're going to get it with YouTube TV, though, on Sunday Ticket. We're going to get a lot of that because of the inventory, because of the amount of games.
But with Amazon, I could pause my screen and come back to it and hit play. I like that.
I had no issue at all.
Yeah, is that the internet service and not the provider?
Maybe, but I just think we're going to have legitimate YouTube issues with all these games on.
The NFL's going to grab that money, and then this is also the networks that are already paying the NFL for their package, for their allotment of games, their primetime windows, saying, hey, we also want an exclusive game on streaming. They're also doubling down on streaming, even though the commercial inventory, the advertising inventory, by and large, is spent on television and not online. Mike Gunzelman about to join us from New York. The Gun Show from OutKick.com joins us next on Hot Mic.
So Jake Bird is a reliever for one of the worst teams in baseball, the Colorado Rockies, who are just horrible. And apparently this middle reliever who was called up for the call up to the big leagues for the first time this year. So he's toiled and worked his butt off. Decided he was going to pull a little old school, going to date myself, Al Hrabosky, and challenge and act like an idiot on the mound because he got an out. He did that against the Phillies. And in doing so, Bryce Harper took exception and went basically to the Rockies bench and said, let's fight. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I love, I don't know. I just love stuff because in baseball, there's a lot of fake tough guys. There's a lot of fake tough guys who talk the game, and then there's the tough guys are actually the guys that don't talk tough for the most part, like Pedro Martinez or Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan never said anything. He just threw 107 and put it in your ribcage if he didn't like you. Pedro would knock you on your ass at the drop of a dime. But I love that. I love guys like that. I love guys that are real and authentic. And Bryce is clearly a leader. And I since the day I met him I think I met him when he was like 12. It seems like his first year in the big leagues. He's always been a guy who's been vocal, but he plays the game and he's good. And the other stuff is the chromey stuff that's the modern day game and what they love and all the things that go with that. But the guy plays hurt, plays as hard as he can. And I think he gives it everything. And I loved it. I thought it was a great thing. I thought it was a good thing for the Phillies who need a little kick in the ass. And then there was he got ejected. Bird got ejected. Rockies won the game 4-0 to avoid a sweep. But none of that stuff matters. That's kind of the thing that you, I don't know about rally around, but it just cements a guy's position in the clubhouse. Zach Greinke became just the 5th player in Major League history. And please understand the significance of that. There have been, 100 and probably 40 years of organized professional baseball. When somebody does something that only 4 players have ever done, unique is not really the right word. I don't even know what it is. It's excruciatingly rare. But Greinke struck out his 1,000th different career player. So he struck out, only 5 guys have done this. In the list pretty much makes you understand. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, and Nolan Ryan are the only other players ever to strike out 1,000 different hitters. Not 1,000 hitters, 1,000 different hitters.
And the only guy on that list that he's similar to is Maddux.
Right. Well, and if you know anything about Zach, he's been Maddux-like since he got to the big leagues.
Right.
and he talked about, I think, his approach. Fascinating story too, by the way. And as a father of someone who raised a kid with Asperger's, meeting a professional athlete with Asperger's it's exactly what you expect. The guy is laser focused beyond belief. And as a parent of an Aspie, I met him. Well, I don't know if met him is the right word, but I ran into him at an event in Arizona, and he was exactly what you'd expect. But a phenomenal career. I think probably a Hall of Fame career too.
Sixth and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you. Hot Mike rolls on with the gun show.
Great little joke here in the YouTube chat I've never heard before.
Okay.
But it's pretty punchy. Jordan says, LeBron didn't go to college because he struggles with finals. Finals with a capital F. How about that? Jordan winning the joke of the day.
Listen to the Beach Boys playing right now, and as we see Mike Gunzelman in the backdrop of our dreams. Where are you currently?
Well, you know how when the weather is really bad and you'll have like the hurricane meteorologist like holding on to things. I decided to do the complete opposite. It's the holidays, Memorial Day weekend. So I believe I was going to say the Jersey Shore because literally that's where I am. But this does not exist on the Jersey Shore. Snooki ruined that. Once Snooki and the situation destroyed the Jersey Shore. So this is the Jersey Shore. In my view, it would be.
Is there a clean part of the Jersey Shore?
No, no, not at all.
Fair enough.
Absolutely not.
Do you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Guns,
of course, absolutely.
Where they go back to the Jersey Shore that they thought was the Jersey Shore of their youth, and it's just covered with syringes on the beach. Like, were these syringes always here? I don't remember that as a kid. I love it.
I had a shore house growing. Well, still do. My family does in Seaside. In Seaside,
that's nice.
Beautiful place. But the nickname is Sleeside because once you actually get onto the actual onto the sand itself. So, but we're okay. Everything's going great. Could always be worse, right? It's Memorial Day. It's a holiday. I just wish that this was a real background behind me. But that's okay.
Same. For you, I wish that. Hey, Chad and I were discussing randomly ACT, SAT scores. But how many times did you have to take the test, and what did you make?
I took the SATs twice. I got a 1290 out of 1600 the first time, and I got lesser the second time.
Same.
Wow, you and Hutton are exactly the same.
I applied myself the second time and scored worse.
Yes, and I took the course. Yeah, I took the course again to like study for it. You know what I mean? Like you drop hundreds of dollars for this is how you do it. And
you would have thought I came home with an earring. The way my dad looked at me. You did what on your second test?
Guns. I took the ACT, not the SAT. I took it twice. I wasn't smart enough or was never told to even study for it. And it wasn't even seemed like it was anything of that much importance. I scored and no surprise, I scored the exact same both times. 24 in both times. Didn't study the first time, didn't study the second time, which I'm thinking that means that this test is pretty true to form. No preparation at all and got the exact same score both times. So that's a good for the ACT, I guess. Bad for me.
Funny story. One of you know how in fantasy football leagues there's always a punishment. Well, last season, the person
not for Clay Travis, but for everyone else, sure.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, we have to have we could do a whole show on his
He's far too busy, Guns. He's far too busy. Okay, just can't be inconvenienced.
He's in one of his 4 homes currently.
Yes.
I got a lot on his mind these days. Clay does a lot going on. But the loser of the league this past year had to take the SATs live on Twitch. Imagine taking it. He's like 30-something years old. Oh my! It was live streamed the whole time. It was hilarious.
Who came up with this punishment? Because that's brilliant.
One of us in the group chat. We were trying to think of like what could be the worst thing. SATs is tough, and so we would periodically. It was live streamed on Twitch actually, and we would periodically catch it. He took it for like 9 hours in a row. It's so hard.
That is a great punishment.
1,000. He didn't even bring 1,000. You're talking about like isosceles triangles. He's like, what is this?
I hope people are jotting down a note in their phone right now for future fantasy football punishments by hearing that. If they can make someone, here's a note, make someone take SAT on camera as an older person is perfect.
Mike Gutzelman with us. OutKick.com is where you can find his great work. The Gun Show is where you can find him on social. Guns, why is Saudi Arabia the biggest sports threat for us right now?
Listen, guys, this is wild. So let's break this down. We already know a couple things out there. First of all, China obviously is the worst. We know that, all right? The NBA has sold their soul to them. Adam Silver is a gutless worm. He continues to bend over backwards to China. LeBron, the same thing. And we understand why we understand why, but we don't agree with why. But of course, it's all because of the money and the Nike contracts and all of that. And they've essentially sold out to the Chinese. All right, but where the Chinese only have kind of just the monopoly over, say, basketball in the sports realm. Let's set aside the political stuff and the TikTok and all that. The Saudis are coming in hot and nobody's talking about it. Fellas, do you realize this? Let me just break this down for you, all right? Give me 20 seconds of your time. The Saudis, within the last couple of years, obviously have Live Golf. Billions upon billions of dollars. They signed Ronaldo, who's one of the top 3 most famous soccer players in the world. They just dropped $440 million contract offer to Messi, the other most famous soccer player in the world. Now, I understand that us here in America, we don't care too much about soccer, but you have 2 of the biggest international superstars that are athletes going to the Saudis. That's a big deal. If that isn't enough, one of the biggest influencers, Jake Paul, for Gen Zers and influence and millennials. Jake Paul just did a boxing fight over there. He's sucking up to the Saudis and all them afterwards. The WWE, which is supposed to be for kids out there, family-oriented content, who, by the way, also have females on the roster that have to fight in full garment. They just extended a multi-million-dollar partnership through 2027 annually with the Saudis. They've also got Formula One racing out there. They've also put in the bid for the World Cup for 2030. They are taking over everything while we're arguing within ourselves here in America, and they're just laughing all the way to the bank. We are giving them so much money in the sports world. Oh, and on top of all that, they're one of the worst human rights abusers in the world. Do you realize that if you are gay, and I've cited multiple examples of this in my article on OutKick, if you are found to be a homosexual in Saudi Arabia, you get 500 lashes and can be sentenced up to 5 years in prison. And this is who people are giving all this money to, and we don't hear anything about it.
Well, but we hear about it because Phil Mickelson apparently started all this with Liv. But prior to that, Post Malone, Bruno Mars, DJ Khaled, they all went to a Saudi festival and performed. Like they're musicians, global superstars are going over there to take the money too. And to be honest, we were discussing this last year with the Live Tour. It is hard to turn down $200 million if you're Phil Mickelson at 45 years old or however old he is.
You're exactly right. So what the Saudis are doing, it's very interesting because I did a lot of research on this, and they're not really hiding it. They're saying that they are trying to kind of like rebrand themselves, okay?
Yep.
I call it a purposeful diversion. All right. They want everyone to look at the glamour, the billions of dollars that they are putting into sports, music, and entertainment out there. We're seeing that, like you said, with the concerts and all this. But while they're doing that, it's like, oh, here's the shiny objects, everybody. Meanwhile, they're one of the worst countries in the whole entire world. Out of the top 20, the G20 is pretty much, it's the most important countries in the world. The Saudi economy grew the fastest last year. They are also the 5th highest arms dealers in the world. Where do you think all that money is going that they're getting from the sports leagues and from the athletes and from the Post Malones and from all of them? It's not going to the people. It's only being, we know exactly what's going on, and nobody's talking about it. We hear China, China, China. Of course, China is terrible. The Saudis are coming in like a juggernaut force right now, fellas.
Yeah, but see, here's where I'm split on it, though. During COVID, I wanted things to be open, right? Chad and I are demanding to be in our radio studio. Dana White refused to shut down, and he had Fight Island in the UAE, and he did it there because he couldn't do it here. So I'm thankful to have that television experience at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, more than I am anti whatever we're referencing here, because I'm a sports fan for that moment. So if I'm going to back that, but I can't back the fact that they're going to spend money on Phil, that's where I was split last year. And I said then, I don't blame these guys for going to the LIV Tour. By the way, there's only, one tournament that's going to be there on the LIV Tour. Everything else is, for the most part, in the States.
I agree with you to an extent, because I think the larger issue that I'm kind of talking about is that when America's demise happens, it's going to come from within. And we're starting to see that, whether it's on a political spectrum, we're starting to see the inner divisions that are happening. A lot of it kind of purposeful, because division, allows politicians to remain in power.
Right.
And that's all they really want.
Right.
So we're seeing that from within. But while we are arguing amongst ourselves, the powers that be, I'm talking the corporations, politicians, major athletes, like your Jake Pauls, your Phil Mickelsons, they're kind of they're saying one thing, but then kind of laughing and just joining the Saudis, who are just going to take over. So while we're all, and rightfully so, the beauty about America is freedom and debate and all that, expression and being able to argue amongst ourselves. But while that is happening, the Saudis are sweeping in. And it comes to a point where the money's going to be too good. And then people are going to look back in 10 years from now and be like, whoa, why is this all happening? It's like, well, we did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves, and nobody was we understand the LIV Golf, but it's much bigger than LIV Golf. On an international playing field, the Saudis are making big moves. And what I find most hypocritical is, one aspect, some of these athletes are saying, here in the home front, like, oh, America sucks. There's so much wrong with America. But then those same people, those same leagues, those same sponsors will then willfully, knowingly go and give hundreds of millions of dollars to the Saudis. That is a double standard. Just be real. They're not being real. And on top of all that, you don't hear it like, oh, well, we know the Saudis are bad, but. There's always a but. Rory McIlroy, I use this example in my OutKick piece. Rory McIlroy was one of the biggest people that came out against the Phil Mickelson and LIV Golf. How could you? Do you realize just a couple months later, I have the tape. I posted the tape on the article. Just a couple months later, he does a complete 180. And he goes, well, if they're going to spend the money, as long as it helps build up the sport. Isn't that interesting? You know what we call that? 2 syllables, my friends. Sell out.
But also, hey, the advertisers for the PGA Tour, MasterCard, Genesis, there are others, Workday. They do business in Saudi Arabia.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
For the PGA Tour, those are the main sponsors for tournaments, and the PGA Tour is anti-LIV, but taking the money from, again, it's a very confusing stance to take if you're trying to be fair to yourself, because you pick one and both are doing really the same thing.
Well, and aren't we talking about the only reason to stop it and when you have capitalist societies around the world that are just trying to make the most money possible? No one does business with North Korea, in part because they don't really have business in their country, but also because they're so sanctioned, no one can trade with them. I mean, doesn't it just have to reach a point where you can't even trade with Saudi Arabia? Because as long as you can, guess what people are going to do? They're going to take the money and they're going to market their businesses there, and they're going to capitalize on what they can while they can.
And I understand why. Listen, I'm all about people. Like, you want to make money, go make your money. Let's go. But it's just frustrating because it comes across as hypocritical because, there's so many inner turmoil and inner issues that we're dealing with right now in the sports world here. But at the same time, one of the worst offenders in the world for LGBTQ plus rights is getting so much money, so much money from the same people that are thinking that America's terrible on that front. It's just, and granted, we do have a lot we have to work on here for sure, but I just don't understand how you can criticize here, but then on the next sentence go and give millions of dollars and want to do tournaments or want to have partnerships with Saudi Arabia. It's just a double standard, and the Saudis clearly don't care. Oh, by the way, they also did something called 9/11 that people seem to have forgotten about. All right? Like, what are we doing here? They've jailed and imprisoned journalists. Like, it's the double, like China, there's so much focus on China right now from TikTok and all that China, I don't see them becoming the sports juggernaut anymore. All right. There's too much focus on them, but the Saudis they control all the oil. They have so much money now, and just nobody's talking about it. So my whole point was to bring awareness because, fellas, I want to ask you this. We see that the NFL has already expanded to Europe. All right. They did a couple games in England, UK. They did one in Germany. Am I wrong? Because I don't think I am. Within 5 years, do you think that there would be a football game played in Saudi Arabia? Because I don't think I am. They are desperate to expand. They won't have a team there. But do you think 5 to 7 years, there's not a game played in Saudi Arabia? If everybody else is doing it, they can be like, well, look, we're not the first. The WWE's doing pay-per-views there for 100,000 people.
It's about optics, right?
Well, I think probably if you just put it out to open bid of, who wants to pay for us to bring a game to your country, Saudi Arabia is going to win that bid. But the NFL may be the one that doesn't need to do it.
Well, but they're
right. It doesn't even need the money to do it.
I believe that Goodell's lasting legacy that he wants to leave on the league is to have a division in Europe, 4 teams. Mm-hmm. That will be the division that plays in Saudi. It won't be from the current setup in the league. So however long that takes, I think it's longer than the time frame you're laying out in 5 years. But I mean, with the way they're expanding globally, like the NFL owners can bid on marketing rights to certain countries, and it's open. I'd say roughly 10 to 12 different countries right now are certain teams have the rights to market their team there. I think we are headed in that direction. And Vince McMahon after 9/11 still had Monday Night Raw. And he's still doing a pay-per-view for $50 million over in Saudi right now.
Saudi Arabia,
so,
yep.
Yeah, so again, absolutely, I don't put anything past anyone versus what they've done on camera or said.
And the thing is, once you go to that level, once you do have an NFL, because right now I laid out, you have the 2 of the greatest soccer players. They own Newcastle Soccer Club. Like I said, that might not mean a lot here, but look at the international landscape, because when you get to that level of these executives, it's almost like, you know what I mean? All they look at is dollar signs at that level. They all party at the same clubs that none of us are invited to. You know what I mean? They're the elites for a reason.
F1. They are F1.
Yeah, exactly. And the formula racing as well. I mean, that's huge itself. And the fact that they have their Grand Prix now in Saudi Arabia. But once you get to that level, my friends, there will be no accountability ever again for Saudi Arabia if the NFL plays a game over there. Already, there's too much leverage that the Saudis are going to have. So the next time there's a humanity crisis, or the next time a New York Times journalist gets killed, or the next time we find out the Saudis back some sort of attack, guess what? There's too much involvement. There's too much blurring and crossing of the lines. Now, that used to be just in the political and corporate realm, now in the sports world. It's something to pay attention to. I've done a ton of research on it. It's interesting. It's kind of sad and depressing because I'm all for America being the best damn in the world. Like, let's go.
Yes.
Damn right. Let's go, America. But when we see what's happening, just see what's happening in front of us, and I laid it all out there. It's something to pay attention to, because when it comes down to it, all a lot of people at the top care about is that money, and the Saudis have a ton of it. And will they sell out more of America? Where more Americans sell themselves out, when you have Jake Paul and this next generation, perhaps they, that are like, hey, well, that's where the money is. It's something to keep an eye on.
Guns, we had a video earlier of a emergency exit door on a Asiatic Airlines flight that some idiot opened up. He was arrested for it, 700 feet in the air. Is there something that's even worse than that? And would that be changing a diaper on a tray table?
That's kind of a loaded question right there. Worse than somebody opening up a plane. I mean, I mean the door.
The visual is not as bad as I expected.
No one died.
No one
Which,
died.
to be clear, no one died.
Nobody died. That is
Someone's
true.
scarf may have been tattered. That's pretty much it.
All right. So when you explain it like that, it's a little bit better. But I think for anybody watching, please, for the love of God, don't open plane doors ever. All right, ever.
Right. Or do what you're about to describe.
If there was ever a second worst thing, it would be this. We found out that a couple, these parents, decided to change their baby's diaper that was used not once, but twice. Twice. And get this, they didn't go to the bathroom, the back of the airplane, to do it on, the changing stations. They did it in the middle of their aisle on the tray table. Twice with people around. Are you kidding me? On the tray table? Oh my God. And if that wasn't enough and disgusting and unsanitary and gross, and you got to be kidding me, these are people that vote and they're changing diapers on the tray table, and these are the people that are voting out there. You can't make it up. If that wasn't enough, my friends, when the person during the second time, this woman said, can you not do this, please? The mother became irate and defensive and couldn't believe that somebody said something to her, saying, you don't know how difficult it is to have a kid on a flight, blah, blah, blah. And the woman, and then the flight attendant came and they were like, you're right, we don't, but can you move 10 feet to the back and do it in the restroom, please, for the love of God? Yeah, they were changing stations right there. But it's like, even when you do something wrong, you become defensive. That is so gross. Also, fellas, in my, because I'm a capital J journalist, how you doing? Let's go, gun show coming at you. We got this coming at you. I did my research. I always thought that there's no way they can clean the planes during the changeover. Okay, there's not enough time.
Yeah.
All right. But some people on this thread were like, oh, well, that's okay because the tray tables get cleaned. Well, then we found out, guess what? They're only cleaned at the end of every single day.
I don't even believe that.
Yeah, I think that's probably being a little bit liberal
that
with
might
what
be
they
a
actually
stretch.
Don't even believe that.
Maybe at the end of the day, maybe.
The next time anybody that's watching right now or listening to Hot Mic right now is on an airplane, do not lay your head down. I don't care how hungover you are from Vegas. Do not put your food on this thing. Do not even touch it. Because why? Because you might have had a baby getting changed with a soiled diaper an hour before you just sat down. Disgusting. You can't make it up. People are crazy. Guys, people are crazy these days.
Guns, you always bring the energy, man. And
we appreciate
the capital J for journalism. We appreciate you as always.
Yeah, don't step on any syringes on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
that's
get back to the beach.
To you this
get
weekend.
back to the beach.
And enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, fellas, and on the East Coast, it's coming up soon. So I'm going to go live that up, all right? Hot Mic, baby, coming at you. Appreciate you all. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you, brother.
You're the man, Guns. Thank you.
Guns. Chad.
What a guy.
We've got headlines about 15 minutes away. It includes DeAndre Hopkins, who has been released by the Arizona Cardinals. But Steph Curry has won a social justice award, but they overlooked one key point over the last calendar year. It's somehow omitted from the reasons why he received the Social Justice Championship Award. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no. We gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your shit up. Quit littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Hunt and Withrow from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot mic across the OutKick network and includes the YouTube channel. We hope you subscribe while you're there.
We're here at our home today.
And this great radio partner, absolutely. The NBA announced recently that Steph Curry is going to be named the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Championship Award winner. This is the honor named after the 6-time NBA MVP, number 2 on the career scoring list. Given to the player who best embodies Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's message of civil rights, black empowerment, and racial equality. All fine, except for the fact that he opposed low-income housing that was going to be developed next to his mansion and wrote an open letter with he and his wife on behalf of the fact that they were against this being built, this development, near the $30 million mansion in Atherton, California. They failed to mention this from the NBA's press release, but this would go against the award's spirit, I would believe.
It just goes to show you that if you're perceived to be on someone's side, they are going to see everything about you that puts them on your side. If you do or say one thing that doesn't seem to be perceived that you're on that side, we'll just ignore that. Just forget about that. That didn't happen. That didn't happen with Steph Curry. I was listening to an interview with Justin Theroux, who directed Tropic Thunder. Really funny guy, really good actor.
Could they make that movie today?
Well, and that's what they got into in the interview. And he said, and he's clearly very much like in line with the people who are criticizing the movie politically and with his thoughts. He's like, I'm just thinking, do you not see like intention matters in comedy? And he said, we are roasting Hollywood and Hollywood actors and how pretentious they are and how silly it all is. We're not roasting, we're not roasting African Americans with Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal. We're roasting Robert Downey Jr.
Or mentally challenged people.
We're roasting
whatever.
the Australian overly self-serious actor that feels like he's got to do this and be in character the whole time. And he said, it hurt because I felt like we're on everyone's side who's criticizing us. And what's that word again? Side that I'm talking about. Well, you're on my side.
Yep.
You can do no wrong. If you're not on my side, you can do no right. We need far less of that in this country, of the taking sides.
Chad, you were reading something from Bobby Barack on a new Game of Thrones spinoff, potentially?
Yeah, he's got a story up at OutKick.com. So House of the Dragon, which finished in October, is coming back. The creators say it's going to be at least 4 seasons. And there's a Jon Snow sequel that has not been greenlit yet.
But it's on the table.
Possibly. The only show that's been greenlit they're putting into production is a show about Dunk and Egg. It's a lighthearted look at Westeros, Hutton. It's going to be more of a comedy.
Bring on Jon Snow.
No dragons on this show, they promised.
Others may like it, but I need more Jon Snow. Hey, coming up, NFL Power Rankings. Armando Salguero has posted his top 32.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Friday edition. Hutton Withrow, OutKick's hot mic across the OutKick network.
Have a great long weekend, everyone.
Chad's giving the Scorsese standing ovation to the weekend.
Yeah. Hey, we should do that as an experiment and see if we can do a standing ovation for an hour to end one of the shows.
What's the Guinness World Record for longest standing ovation? Let's
Davey,
find
let's
out.
get in on that.
It's happened at Cannes, I know that.
Break a Guinness World Record.
Yeah, they time these at Cannes at the film
I think
festival.
we should make Matt receive the standing ovation for an hour and see if he can hold up the whole time. Because that's the awkward part, is receiving the ovation for that long.
Yeah, what do you do in the 7 minutes?
I would just start talking to people. I'd start delivering a speech. And
But if they
stop.
don't stop clapping, what do you do after you're trying to calm them down?
If I'm Johnny Depp at Cannes, or I'm the cast of Killers of the Flower Moon, I would stand up and like try to get their attention and start talking to make them stop. Like Marty Scorsese should have said, "Thank you, France. Thank you. Great cast, terrific script."
But if you just keep clapping through that, like,
and then just hope that.
What if you get an ovation for that?
It's the only play. That's the one play you can make to stop it. Is just start talking, and hope they quit. It's crazy.
Chad, have the Arizona Cardinals already quit for 2023?
Yes, of course they have.
DeAndre Hopkins released today by the team. They could not find a trade partner. Now think about this. He's getting a ton of money over the next 2 years. They could not find a trade partner during the draft when it would have been beneficial for them. Even a 6th or 7th round pick is what I'm reading into this. And even now, no team is going to trade for him because they knew Arizona was going to release him. He's openly said he wants to play for an organization that has a great leadership structure from the top down. And he's named teams that also correspond with that and quarterback play. Specifically, the ones that I think of are Kansas City and Baltimore, 2 of the 5 that he's mentioned. But the other ones are the Bills, the Chargers, and the Eagles, specific to DeAndre Hopkins. The Chiefs had already received permission to talk with Hopkins and his agent prior to the NFL draft. I think Kansas City is very much in play, and now it comes down to how they structure his salary, his incoming money, versus what they have. Right now, of the 32, if we're doing a power ranking for salary cap space, the Chiefs have the least amount of money to spend, a little over $1 million currently. So they've got to make some room. But I look at the Chiefs' depth chart, and I think it's a common sense play for them to pair him with Kelsey and Mahomes. Meanwhile,
by the way, you threw out a nice X factor too with the Lions. DeAndre
Detroit.
Hopkins, yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. I think Detroit makes a lot of sense. Simply because Jamison Williams is suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season. We saw him briefly in his rookie year last year, coming back from the ACL that he suffered in the championship game. And he ends up coming back and playing okay down the December stretch for Detroit. Chad, I think it makes a ton of sense. And if you look at, I realize like it's, Detroit. But the perception of their leadership with Dan Campbell, what we've seen above them with from ownership and general manager on down, I think that's a great spot. Plus, the NFC makes more sense than the AFC if I'm a wide receiver joining a group, because you're going to win and you're going to be in the postseason. And the Lions should be, based on what they're doing currently.
Philly seems, I mentioned earlier that it seems unfair to go to the Chiefs, given Patrick Mahomes and winning the Super Bowl. But
a lot of these guys love Jalen Hurts, man.
Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. How's that fair for a three-pack of wide receivers? To go with Dallas Goedert, who's really good at tight end, a great pass-catching tight end.
Yeah.
Wow. That would be something.
Plus what they've done at running back this offseason.
Yeah.
Speaking of former Lions. But, Chad, Arizona, 32nd, dead last in Armando Salguero's NFL Power Rankings, which posted today at OutKick.com. Here's his description. They have a rookie head coach. They have a quarterback in Kyler Murray who may miss the start of the season because of a knee injury. I think the expectation is he will miss the start of the season. Hopkins was on the trade block. Now he's been released. And they were not getting great pressure on defense. In fact, in terms of third down defense and explosion plays, they were dead last. I mean, they were awful at this. It sounds like Arizona is headed towards the number 1 pick next year. They may also have the number 2 pick next year because they traded with Houston in exchange for Will Anderson at pick number 2 this past April. They hold Houston's pick as well. Houston is very close to the bottom for Armando, but in between Arizona and Houston are the Indianapolis Colts. They can muster a pass rush if everyone's healthy. Their cornerback play is in question. They promise a solid run game with a solid offensive line. They have a star running back in Jonathan Taylor, but the passing game is in question. And he mentions the rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson. And the Colts are on. I bring up Richardson and the Colts and where they're ranked here, because the Colts are also admitting it's going to be uglier before it's pretty. They know they're going to take their lumps early. I agree with Armando putting the Colts low, very low, on any power ranking you can come up with. But between that and the rest of the pack, I think it's your usual suspects. Rams, Panthers, Bears, Texans, Colts, Cardinals. That's the bottom.
Yep.
Any disagreement with the bottom?
No, I don't have any. Can I talk, because I know we're going to go to the bottom and the top. I want to talk just briefly about his middle.
Okay.
In this, okay, before we get to that.
But I think the middle is basically the same team cloned.
Yes.
In many ways.
There's really 3 spots that interest me. Dead smack in the middle. 16, he's got the Cleveland Browns. And the description of the Browns, I think, sums it up well, but also what this team could possibly be. Armando writes, they have a talented roster with big-time playmakers as well as outstanding players in the trenches. This should be a Super Bowl contender. But I don't know who Deshaun Watson is anymore. Once upon a time, he was a blossoming star with a pristine off-field reputation. He's been neither of those for 2 years. So what next? That sums things up perfectly. Deshaun Watson, I've mentioned before, he's the forgotten man in the AFC quarterback carousel of guys who were studs. Where he was thought to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. He's not that anymore. And if he can get that form back, what could this Browns team be?
So here's what I mean by cloned. What's next? Right above Cleveland at 18 or 19, Chad, is Minnesota. Kirk Cousins.
Minnesota 18.
18. So Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, they're the team that wins the division. They're coming off a great regular season. What's next? New England screwed it up with Mac Jones last year by bringing in a non-offensive play caller, non-offensive coach, to then coach their second-year quarterback. Now they bring in Bill O'Brien. What's next for Mac Jones? Moving on down, the New Orleans Saints bring in Derek Carr. What's next in the new regime and the new leadership of the New Orleans Saints offense? Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett, right smack dab in the middle for Armando. What's next for Kenny Pickett after what was a very up and down season with him at quarterback? We can keep going here.
Yeah,
Geno Smith.
Seattle, can he replicate that?
Who has been awful for the vast majority of his career, was absolutely fantastic last year. What's the sequel? What's next?
Jacksonville.
Trevor Lawrence.
And Trevor Lawrence is
what's next?
Spotty. He's shown signs of greatness, but he hasn't been great through 2 years, the starter. But you like the promise that he's shown. It's a good example. The Dolphins at 12, great roster. Can Tua not be concussed and finish out the season?
3 concussions, 2 that were official. What's next? That's the league, though.
Well, I wanted to highlight specifically, I think the Browns in the middle are the most interesting team to me, because I agree with Armando. They have Super Bowl potential, and this is an enormous if. This is an if the size of Lake Erie. If Deshaun Watson can be Deshaun Watson of 3 years ago, when he was with the Texans and he was a top 5 quarterback in the league, if he can do that, this is a team that could win the AFC. Their roster is pretty good. Not pretty good, really good. But it's all on Deshaun Watson and his improvement.
And the unknown is also the fact that we saw him for, 6 or 7 games last year? Was it 11 or 12-week suspension? 12, I believe.
And he was bad.
11, and then a bye week was in the middle of that. Not good. Also, Chubb was bad last year. They couldn't run the football. And that's what they were known for the year prior. So if they get back to that, and they've added pieces, by the way, over this offseason, through trade on defense and through free agency and the draft on offense. I'm not counting out the Browns, because I saw Watson in 2019-2020, when on a 4-win Texans team, he was by far NFL All-Pro. And that was all they had. That was all they had because they traded away DeAndre Hopkins. At the very top, I don't think it's any surprise the Kansas City Chiefs are number 1 for Armando. I agree with him here. Until you knock off the king, they're king. But right behind them, Philadelphia and San Francisco. Philadelphia and San Francisco in the NFC compared to the group pack in the AFC. It really is Philadelphia, San Francisco, and the rest of the NFC for me. So I would put them top 5 automatically. He has the Baltimore Ravens, number 4. This is in like neon Vegas lettering right here.
Because of who they're ahead of.
Yes. This is a neon sign flashing for me going, this is a buy-in on Lamar Jackson and the fact that they're doing more than what they've already done. And he mentions another house of cards, but an imposing one. And it comes down to whether or not you believe Lamar Jackson is staying healthy or not.
Well, not just Lamar Jackson. He goes on. This is one of our always kind of comical caveats to everything we say. If they stay healthy.
But you
have to say that about every team in an offseason when you get ready for the season.
Jr., without Lamar Jackson, we know their record.
Armando writes, the quarterback comes with durability issues. The big free agent receiver addition, Odell Beckham Jr., comes with durability issues. If the Ravens avoid, and also goes on to talk about Rashad Bateman, comes with durability issues at receiver. If the Ravens avoid injuries, they will be outstanding. I agree with them, but this is kind of like my deal with Deshaun Watson. That's a huge if with those guys staying not completely healthy for the season, because I feel like that's becoming nearly impossible. It's probably impossible, not nearly. it's impossible to stay completely healthy for an NFL team with starters throughout the whole season.
Chances are you're going to use your backup quarterback at some point.
Yeah, get through 14 of the 17 with these guys, right? With the collection of your best players. That seems to me to be the goal. If the Ravens can do that, they're going to be great.
The big controversy with this would be having the Bengals behind the Ravens, because the Bengals just bring back everybody. Joe Burrow.
Run it back.
Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins. They are going to put up points. I realize his take is, can the Bengals defense figure out some things to lower the scoreboard on the visitor end of this? But, Chad, I've seen enough. In clutch time, there are only a handful of quarterbacks who get it done. And Joe Cool gets it done. Joey Burrow, sign me up. I would not have Joe Burrow behind Lamar Jackson right now in a power ranking. And I would not have the Ravens ahead of the Bengals based on the nucleus of the team and the results I've seen.
And it's not, to me, it's not just Burrow. It's Burrow, Chase, Higgins.
Yep.
Versus Jackson, Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr. Now, if they land DeAndre Hopkins,
I think Baltimore's in play for that. They've got salary cap space to do it.
If they land DeAndre Hopkins, I'm probably leaning Baltimore. That's what would switch it for me. I disagree with Armando right now. I'm putting Cincinnati ahead of Baltimore. But if they are the winners in whatever sweepstakes happens for DeAndre Hopkins, I'm leaning Baltimore in that division.
Any other teams that stand out to you in the top 10?
Top 10, there was one, and I'm scrolling to see it. Oh, the Giants at 6.
Huge jump up.
The Giants at 6 ahead of the Bills. If you're just looking at the neon lights, as you described it, of Baltimore ahead of Cincinnati.
The NFC helps them here.
How about the Empire State with the New York Giants ahead of the Buffalo Bills?
NFC helps them here, though. Like if I'm doing power rankings preseason and I'm thinking about the losses that I'm going to see for certain AFC teams, right? Versus because of the division structure versus what the Giants may be facing or what we may see from Philadelphia or San Francisco. I like New York. I don't mind them being a right outside the top 5.
The other one I would point to is all the hype around the Lions coming into through the offseason,
Yes.
coming into the season. In the NFC, it's still the Cowboys at 8, Lions at 10, according to Armando.
Oh, and we should mention just real quick on the Giants, Darren Waller is a factor. They added him via trade well before anything got going with NFL free agency. The Lions are also in play, I think, for potentially for Hopkins. But I don't know. So what do you think Hopkins has left versus how we view him? I don't think he's Julio Jones, right, where he's on the back end and the team's dumping him because they know he sucks.
I think he's going to be really good.
When he's playing, the numbers will show you, when he has been in the lineup with Kyler Murray versus when he's not, they are exceptionally better offensively. Now, that was with Kingsbury, but that wasn't enough. The consistency was not enough. Which team is going to bring him in and not ask him to be the number one guy, but pay him the way he wants to get paid versus what another team that doesn't have strong leadership or needs him to be the vocal leader, needs him to be the guy in the locker room, what they could offer to Hopkins? Is it really about winning or is it about money? Well, we may find out because Kansas City right now has the least amount of salary cap space to work with. If you want to go play for Mahomes, there are concessions to be made on the bottom dollar.
What about Dallas for DeAndre Hopkins?
Let's see. So they have CeeDee Lamb.
I'm thinking NFC teams right now on top of mind of teams where if you go there, you've got an easier route. To get to the end. If you're Hopkins, pairing with Dak Prescott in Dallas and CeeDee Lamb.
I'm thinking about the NFC schedule versus the AFC, and I like it a lot better for Hopkins if he wants to win and succeed. Because you're winning, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
He was a part of franchises that were losing. Houston and then Arizona. They did not live up to expectation. If you want to win, to me, the best success is going to be in the NFC this year. At the top tier, the top 4 or 5.
If you're just looking at
top 4 or 5 teams.
chance for success also.
Chance for a Super Bowl.
It's also a much better division you're going to be playing in terms of being able to win with the Lions as opposed to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The NFC East is going to be brutal.
And we should not throw out the Jets. The Jets mentioned Hopkins when they missed out on Odell Beckham Jr. with Rodgers. But the Jets have not been mentioned by Hopkins. Doesn't mean they're not in the running. But the New York Jets made sure that they were mentioned whenever Schefter and Rappaport were doing this back during the draft.
And Armando's got the Jets at 11. One spot ahead of the Dolphins, one spot behind the Lions.
Coming up, we asked the question about injury reports in the NFL compared to injury reports which don't exist in college football and how that impacts sports betting and gambling, and whether or not we get to a situation where we see a conference, we see Division I, we see all of college sports have to release injury reports. We'll discuss that, plus we've got the strangest, weirdest headlines of the week via Davey Hudson. Fill in the blank style. That's next, right here on Hot Mic.
My primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number one pet peeve, telemarketers. Number two pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number three pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number four pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you gotta keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
feel like everyone in the studio also. I feel like everyone in the studio also was experiencing the exact same thing. Where for whatever reason, it's probably us. We probably sucked, and they were in here like, "Good gosh, can the show please hurry up at some point this week?"
Pretending to care.
But last week, they're like, "Are these guys going to stop talking to us in the breaks ever? We just want to enjoy our silence alone." Last week felt miserably long.
Same.
Not going to sugarcoat it. We got to Thursday, and Hunt and I both looked up at one point and said, "It feels like Saturday afternoon right now." That's where it feels like we
Tuesday
should be
morning.
in the week. Saturday afternoon or Sunday. We got many admirers here at 6th and Peabody. We got to wave them all off. Matt's our security over there, not doing his job, looking down at his phone instead of them coming in. This week has flown by, so that's good. And we hope that everyone's, for most of you, long weekend, we hope that it does not fly by for you. We hope that this long weekend takes forever.
Stretch it.
That's what we
Stretch it
want.
out.
Yeah, let's let this long weekend be like last week was for us.
We will discuss college teams releasing injury reports and whether or not they should coming up. But first, let's get weird.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird. Weird. Get weird.
And it is fill in the blank style with Davey Hudson today. Davey, what are you bringing us?
Hey guys, so to make it more of a game for us, I'm going to give you part of a headline, and then you got to guess like what actually happens.
Okay.
So we're filling in the blank. I think this could be fun. Now, I've made sure you guys did not know what the 3 headlines are. You're going to get a little snippet, but I'm curious to see where you go with that. And just to get us started.
Hold on. Davey right now is a man after my own heart because we had the game yesterday of Arrested or Graduated, Georgia Football Edition. I'm a big game show guy. I love them. And now he's turned Let's Get Weird into a game for us also. So this is perfect. Right up my alley, Davey. I love it. What do you have?
I'm glad you like it, Chad. So for the first one, we have landlord sets apartment on fire while blank.
Landlord sets apartment on fire while blank. What do you think, Chad?
While trying to George Foreman grill some bacon in his bed, a la Michael Scott.
I'm going to say landlord sets apartment on fire while being caught with his girlfriend and mistress.
All right, guys.
On meth, while cooking meth.
I think drugs are involved, but for this one, we're just easing into it. You know, I like to do with the first one, but while blasting We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. So that doesn't sound that crazy off the bat,
I love this
right?
song.
But where it gets really weird is he's doing this at 4 a.m. It's a landlord in St. Louis County, Minnesota, which I could go on a tangent about how there's already a St. Louis County in Missouri, and I don't know why we have to always name things after other things. I mean, just Tennessee, for example, we've got Alexandria, Paris. They even built a small Eiffel Tower. Memphis, they thought putting a pyramid out there would be real original.
Yep.
So we just keep that up. I just think, hey, maybe having some unique ideas, not just naming it after another place that's already been established.
That's the problem with having a 300-year-old country compared to the
A
world.
lot of things came before us. There was a line in the latest Succession where someone said, yeah, you know, your democracy is actually younger than Botswana's. So congratulations.
Anyone in Rome would laugh at you if you mentioned something historical in the States.
Oh, yeah. I think if we just decided to do everything like without, if the precursor was everything has to be brand new in America when you got here in the English language, we would have a bunch of cities and states with just a bunch of consonants, a string of consonants that made no sound or no word together, because the English language, while abundant, is also somewhat limited. So that's why we have
And
things
diverse.
named after something else. This is our history lesson for the day.
This right here is Travis Carlson. You'll see a picture of him. He's the 37-year-old
Travis.
landlord. What was weird, though, was he was to get an accelerant to help get his fire going. While he was doing this while there were tenants in the other apartment, he decided to drill holes into his gas tank and then put a carton or like a tank under that, then go inside and use that to spray around everywhere. I mean, this was like I said, 4 a.m., cops called on him, and he's just blasting We Didn't Start the Fire while this is going on.
Was there a
Obviously,
reason for
he's
the
arrested.
arson? Did he cite a reason, or just he decided to start a fire?
That has not been established at
Okay.
this time. I don't have a motive exactly for you, Chad.
I feel like with this story, it is so weird, Davey, that next
Methadone.
week,
Yes.
when you
That
come
was the
up with
reason.
the reason for the arson, it's going to even add to it when we find out the actual
Yeah.
motive for the arson. Even that's going to be so strange.
Okay, so the fill in the blank was
believe it.
landlord sets apartment on fire while
Blasting Billy Joel's
We didn't start the fire, which is at 4 a.m., which is an important detail, which means he was out of his mind.
Moving right along to the second one, we're going with a Kentucky man.
Cause of arson, meth.
Yes.
Right in the report. Sorry,
Wait,
David.
no,
Gambling addiction.
Yes.
Kentucky man shoots roommate 4.
Kentucky shoots roommate
May I?
4.
Burning his couch.
That's a good one. 4 saying.
Oh, I now see the guy in the background here.
4 saying John Calipari is overrated.
For being a Louisville fan.
Yes.
It's also fair, but no, it was actually for eating his last Hot Pocket.
See, I believe this. I believe this in the
Hot
Commonwealth.
Pockets can be a scarce commodity when they're around the house.
Is it pepperoni Hot Pocket or?
I don't have that much detail, but Louisville police arrested Clifton Williams.
Are there any
as
other
you'll
ones?
see. I don't. Like I've
great
been in
question.
arguments before, but the fact that you would shoot somebody over a Hot Pocket. I mean, are there? I'm trying to think of like a worse food item I could insert for Hot Pocket in this conversation, and I'm really struggling to find one. He woke up from a nap, is what it seems like happened. Found out his last Hot Pocket was no longer there.
No longer in
I
his
guess
pocket.
he didn't want to decide. He didn't decide. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and drive to a Walmart or wherever you may have it, and pick up another set of Hot Pockets. But as the fight escalated, he ended up just getting his gun. And his roommate did say, "Please don't shoot." It didn't matter. He ended up shooting him in the rear end. So
yeah.
Oh, so he's alive.
Forrest
yeah,
Gump
the guy's
style.
not dead.
That's how Forrest Gump got to go home from Vietnam. Got shot in the rear end.
Hot Pocket, though, I mean, let's be honest. When I see the visual of this guy, it looks like he was really hard up for the Hot Pocket.
Yeah, he looks pretty
Although
hungry.
he doesn't look hungry.
Yeah, no, he looks like he's been well fed.
Yeah, I'm curious if.
But not huge, not a huge man. And you said, was it a pepperoni? I don't know that I've ever had a Hot Pocket that's not the pepperoni
Yeah.
pizza.
Just a different version of frozen.
Hot Pocket.
Can you
Much
take
like,
the freezer? Do you taste the freezer or not in the Hot
were
Pocket?
there any even other? Remember the pizza bites?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Were there any other
The
flavors
pizza rolls?
than the pizza rolls? Sorry, not pizza bites, but was
Yeah,
there
you
another
could have
flavor than cheese and
sausage.
pepperoni?
You
They
got
had
sausage. Yeah.
Huh. Weird. Hot Pocket, as you heard right there.
I mean, I don't know Kentucky's
in Kentucky,
laws,
in
but
rural Kentucky, you shoot your roommate for eating the Hot Pocket. Davey's going for, eating what's the rare bird, ortolan in the Hamptons. That's where you get shot for doing that, eating some sort of rare bird that's illegal to eat.
Yeah, I
I'm
wonder if,
looking up the different flavor. Philly cheesesteak, pepperoni pizza,
Hot Pocket.
chicken bacon ranch, Hot Pocket,
That one sounds iffy.
meatballs, and mozzarella.
I mean, there's
That one could be okay.
no because
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
It's gonna be just
Breakfast.
blasting and burning your mouth on the outside and still frozen on the inside. I don't know how they never were able to perfect that after all these years. And the fact they were able to apparently sell tons and tons of units. I will look into seeing if there is a stand your ground law in Kentucky and if a stolen Hot Pocket would classify into that.
Steak nacho.
I'm pretty sure that if you shot someone for eating your last Hot Pocket, you also don't possess the patience to just let the Hot Pocket sit for the amount of time you need to in order to enjoy it. Because the key with the pizza
This is
roll
like
or the
a-
Hot Pocket is always, when those things come out of the microwave, you let that puppy sit for a solid 3 to 4 minutes.
You got to double the time you put it in the microwave for.
A solid 3 to 4 minutes, maybe even 5. And once they
Yep.
sit at room temperature for 4 to 5 minutes, they are delicious.
Is this the
every time.
2023 version of Buzz eating Kevin's cheese pizza?
Except Buzz didn't shoot.
Well,
Or Kevin didn't shoot?
Yeah, he tackled him.
Yeah.
This is the Kentucky version of whatever went down in Chicago.
Yeah, no felonies were committed in
I like
1990.
I just
Steak
like the
and cheddar
concept
flavor.
of the
Steak and cheddar.
The Kentucky version. We just have a Kentucky version of everything.
Where would steak and cheddar be on your list, Chad?
Steak and cheddar?
I don't eat cheese, so this doesn't really apply to me. I'm gonna have to sit this one out.
Isn't there there's a Subway that's a steak and cheese, the steak and cheese sub, but it's kind of like their take on a Philly cheese.
Yeah.
I just don't think of steak and cheddar together.
The worst
The
sounding
beef
is the,
and cheddar
the
from
chicken
Arby's
bacon
is
ranch
delicious.
sounds awful.
Right? Beef and cheddar, good.
Very
Steak
good.
and cheddar, I hear that and I think, what? Never thought about cheddar with
Final
steak.
one is buffalo style chicken.
Yeah, again, risky.
Just give me the pepperoni pizza.
Just give me the pepperoni pizza. There was one other, the meatball and mozzarella, maybe. The rest of them, not so much.
I don't want spaghetti Hot Pocket though. All right, number 3.
Final one, guys. So this one, by far my favorite. Florida man blank while taking a leak.
Killed.
Florida man. Yeah, the first thought was death.
Killed.
Florida man killed an alligator while taking a leak.
Makes jean shorts. Can I?
Wow.
I'm going to say, yeah, there's
cutting jean shorts.
I feel like in Florida, there's usually alligators involved.
You know, I mean,
alligators or meth.
I had this one to where I didn't think you'd come close, and Chad, you were actually very close. But Florida man
Really?
loses arm to gator while taking a leak.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was setting
So
this
the other
up.
way around. I had him killing the alligator, but in fact, the alligator almost killed him.
In all honesty, this guy's lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
His name is Jordan Rivera. He ended up losing pretty much his entire right arm. He was at a bar, and the line for the restroom was too long, so he decided to go outside, and there's a pond around there, and somehow, I mean, he had to be blackout drunk, but he ended up falling into the water. Was actually attacked by an 11-foot alligator. Another man, former military vet, Trent Rozier. If you look at this guy's mustache, I mean, you can just tell he's winning across the board. I mean, I got to give the guy credit. He's a better man than I am.
Is that Hook?
If I were to see an 11-foot alligator
young Dustin Hoffman out there.
attack a
Is that
stranger,
Rufio?
I'm not jumping in on that one. I mean, I'd send T's and P's, but yeah, I'm not getting involved. Managed to pull him. Of course, they found the gator and were able to
find his arm?
euthanize it. The arm is gone. I look at this and I'm just thinking, damn. The fact you're able to survive an 11-foot gator, at least somebody jumped in to help him. If not, it probably
Nate
would've taken
Bargatze
him.
claims he put an alligator into one of the freshwater bodies here, bodies of water here.
Oh, that's right. He had a pet alligator, right?
Yeah, said he went home with a small one. And what you don't find out is alligators aren't something you keep
There
very
was
long.
a story around here at one point where someone had pet piranhas.
Yes.
And they put them in like
No.
Percy Priest Lake.
No, it was the flood. It was, what is the cafe? Rainforest Cafe.
Oh.
The flood.
The river, the Cumberland River got into the mall in Nashville.
It got into the mall, and Rainforest Cafe shut down, obviously. But then the piranhas at Rainforest Cafe got out into the bodies of water.
That's enough to make me not want to
Get in the Cumberland River
anytime soon.
Best headline, most believable is the last one. Florida man loses arm to gator while taking a leak. Best headline is the Kentucky man on the hot pocket.
I thought he was going to lose something besides his arm.
Happy that he lived. First off, also
Thankful.
How
is he thankful it's only an arm?
I don't know. I mean, I'd be more thankful if an alligator didn't attack me.
Of course.
Yeah.
But if an alligator is going to bite off a limb,
given
I'd
the
rather have 2 legs than 2 arms.
Given
is
the
what I'm saying.
circumstances,
I want 2 legs more than I want 2 arms.
Absolutely, you can get by
and
with the 1 arm.
And any other body part
question,
that
though,
Davey was
Hutton,
alluding
is,
to.
How quickly do you sober up if you're attacked by an alligator after falling into a body of water?
Immediately.
He said, first off, you're really drunk to fall into a body of water, a pond, or just walk into it.
This is
out back of a bar.
This is the fastest sobering up since you had to you arrived home past your curfew in high school.
I mean, and your parents are awake asking you questions.
Lights are on when you pull in.
To tell you how drunk this guy was, he says he doesn't even remember the attack at all.
He just blacked out, but he clearly did enough to get away from the thing. So that's the fight or flight. You got to fight at that point. The adrenaline kicks in, and you were stone cold sober. I bet that guy could score a higher ACT score than Hutton at the hospital right after that. He was so sober.
Absolutely.
That's how sober that guy was.
I bet he could score a higher one drunk.
Possibly.
Based on the way I tried for my second score.
By the looks of that bar, probably not. Just the overhead shot of that bar I saw, I doubt he could score higher than you.
Davey, your favorite headline of the 3?
Oh, it's definitely the gator one. I just look at this, and you take everything into account, how he was able to fight it off. I wish I could show you the news clip of him doing a post interview, or an interview after the attack. He's just like one of those people that seem to be genuinely happy with life, and the fact he's still alive.
Of course,
it goes without saying. And
is he still living in Florida?
Yeah, I believe he's going to be hanging out there for a while.
I wouldn't be. I'd move out. I want to be landlocked if I'm him after this.
Something that. We had the Buffalo story earlier this week.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the guy on the Buffalo.
Well, the person getting flipped by the Buffalo, also okay. But people that walk up to alligators on golf courses and film them, I see this, I feel like 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm thinking, why are you getting this close to the alligator?
I think those gators are more well fed. Hear me out. They're not as angry and pissed off at the world for, this threat walking up to them. They're fat and happy. Because I think, the extra ham sandwich as you drive by after you leave the 13th tee and the cart girl comes by, they're throwing it at them like you throw it at a duck in the water.
But if I see an alligator on a golf course in
I'm not
Florida
walking up
or
to
wherever, well, I'm leaving the hole. Like if there's just one camped out in the fairway, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go around this way and go to the next hole now. I'm not going to walk past it on the off chance that the thing is hungry. And who are these people that just walk like that alligator looks well fed. I'm going to go up there and mess with it. This thing's going to be fine. Let's get our phones out and let's video this thing as it walks up right next to us.
Even Crocodile Hunter died doing what he loved. It was stingray induced, but he was in the water with them.
If you were around like a Crocodile Hunter or Crocodile Dundee type character at all times in the wild,
I'll go with the real guy who died versus
would you
Paul
be
Hogan.
Paul Hogan, though, terrific actor, also dead, I think.
I don't think so.
Davey, research that.
I do not think so. I'm going to say alive.
Would you be
extremely old?
Would you
but
feel
alive.
safer, or would you be more scared knowing that person's going to do crazy stuff around you that could lead to you being harmed?
Still alive, 83 years old.
83.
Paul Hogan, alive. My apologies to the Hogan family.
To Linda.
Well,
you still married to Linda?
I'll issue a formal apology.
No, they got divorced in 2014.
I'll issue a formal apology on my Instagram story.
Yes.
Coming up later tonight.
Chad, does college football, let's just stick to football, do they need to release a weekly injury report? And the NFL style, which would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for a Sunday kickoff, you get an injury report leading up to the game. So on the college week, it would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kickoff on Saturday. Should they do that based on betting and gambling and all the sports apps and everything else involved to be on the up and up?
Yes. The answer is yes.
I don't think it matters because the controversy is with the coaches and the players. And if you really want to fool everyone, if you have a questionable versus probable versus doubtful, you're going to know if the guy's playing or if he made the trip. Like if there are 100 guys on the roster and 70 travel, you're going to know who traveled and who didn't, and you don't have to rule guys out until you arrive in the city. The bet can be placed. I don't think it matters all that much. I really don't.
It may not, but sometimes perception is reality. And now that everyone knows that everyone gambles on their own phone, I just think it makes it more of an up and up. It has the appearance of more appearance of credibility if teams are announcing injuries early in the week, later in the week, and you're getting updates. And it does keep it more fair for everyone to know, and not just if you have an inside source or not with the team or with a coach. So I like it for that reason. It's my issue with college baseball because there's so many games and so many teams. And when you're betting on a sport like college baseball, there's just so many variables. It's why they cap it. And you can't put too much money down on one game, right? That's understandable.
That's right.
But college football is a big-time sport in America. It needs to be treated, at least from this respect, the same way as the NFL does, with that level of integrity, with knowing, and I'm not talking about just competitive integrity team to team playing each other. I'm talking about public integrity with gambling on the games and feeling like you're getting a straight-up game and knowing what the deal is with injuries.
Coming up, whenever we return on Tuesday, is it going to be the Heat or the Celtics in the NBA Finals against the Nuggets? We'll weigh in next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Let's get to the weekend, shall we?
Let's do it.
Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. We hope that over the weekend you'll check out the OutKick channel on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. All of the shows available on demand. Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day honors United States military service men and women who have bravely served our country but did not return home. And we have an example of a brave soldier who served his country and then never returned to his team in Afghanistan. Chad and I don't know or did not know Nick Moses, Sergeant First Class. But we know him through two of our great friends in Craig Nance and Aaron Bell. And they gave us this Nick Stone, as we call it, for our studio, 2 years ago now.
Yep.
And Nick is here, is inscribed on the front of the Nick Stone. And this is just to remind everyone that he's always around, despite the fact that after 3 tours, beginning his 4th tour, he returned back to Fort Campbell for special training and was killed in his home, shot 5 times, and never returned back to Afghanistan to serve, to finish out whatever special forces mission he was a part of as a Green Beret. Our hearts go out to him and his family and his friends, specifically Craig and Aaron, during Memorial Day weekend. And that's why we want to honor him every chance we get in the background of Hot Mic. He's the soldier over the shoulder of Hot Mic each and every day. Nick is here, and for as long as Craig and Aaron will let us keep this here, it will be in the background of our studio.
Craig and Aaron are 2 great dudes.
The best.
And when they vouch for someone, it means something. So the fact they love Nick so much says a lot to me. And this is an important weekend, and we want everyone to go out and have fun this weekend and enjoy the freedoms we have as Americans while also acknowledging and honoring the reason we have those freedoms. And that is because a lot of people fought in wars and have fought not even in wars, but fought in different ways for the United States. Fought in the intelligence community. Fought in ways we don't even know about. People that have stars on a wall in Langley, Virginia, that we don't even know how they died. So we can enjoy these freedoms. We can have cookouts. We can go to theme parks. We can spend time with family and friends, and we can do all these different things. So while I want everyone to have fun, just because Nick Moses and others that can't be here with us would love that and would love for everyone to have fun, knowing that's one of the big reasons they sacrifice for us. Keep in mind the reason for the holiday and understand the true meaning behind Memorial Day and what we should be thinking about at some point over the weekend or on Monday. And I, for one, am extremely thankful for those that gave the ultimate sacrifice.
No doubt. Just take a moment to remember our lost veterans and their families over the weekend while you enjoy a great holiday weekend across our great country. Chad, when we return on Tuesday,
no show on Monday.
No show on Monday.
We'll be back. We'll be honoring
some
Memorial
of our top
Day,
interviews.
and we'll be back on Tuesday.
Colin Warner has selected the best.
Colin Warner's done a great job coming up with the best of show for our radio affiliates on Monday.
When we return on Tuesday, Celtics or Heat against the Nuggets in the NBA Finals? Because if there is a Game 7, it will be played Monday night based on the fact that Game 6 is tomorrow, every other day schedule.
No dog in the hunt. Part of me wants to see the Celtics make history and get to the NBA Finals for a 2nd straight year, being the first team in NBA history to ever erase a 3-0 deficit. But Heat aren't losing. Heat culture wins out. They're going to go back to Miami. This thing ends in 6. I think the Heat win it tomorrow night. Back in Miami, Heat Nuggets NBA Finals.
I'm with you, man. I think Jimmy Butler has a night in South Beach. Playoff Jimmy goes off. And here's the thing. When the Celtics don't hit threes at a consistent basis in the first half, they throw in the towel, man. We've seen that. And they've been very up and down throughout this entire playoff run. I just can't buy into the fact that all of a sudden everything's going to click for them and they're just going to go on this tear to where they win the NBA Finals. Maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe Vegas is 100% right. Most of the time they are. Not even most. Vast majority of the time, Vegas knows. And when the pairings were announced based on results, we have the conference finals. of the 4 teams remaining, Boston was by far the lead favorite to win the NBA trophy. I just don't see that same consistency. I think it's the Nuggets year, and I think the Heat have enough to beat Boston one more time. I'm taking Jimmy Butler in Miami in Game 6. I don't even think there's a Game 7. If there is, Boston's winning.
It's going to be a fun weekend, Hutton, and we'll be talking about it on Tuesday when we get back. But I'm with you. Heat Nuggets finals. That's what we'll be talking about.
Get out, enjoy family, enjoy the outdoors, the sunshine, and much more, and enjoy the sports. Escape from all the BS going on, and be thankful for the country that we live in. Happy Memorial Day. Back at it on Tuesdays, right here, 3 o'clock Eastern, for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.